Hey guys. Part 13 of What If Naruto was sealed and woke up after 2000 years. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 36. This is going to be awkward. Location: Naruto. He sat in the crow's nest of a ship sailing out at sea. Well, one could hardly call it a crow's nest when there wasn't really any nest of any kind to be found up there. Perhaps it was best to just call it the top of the ship. In the end, it didn't matter, just like how it didn't matter the sea became murky and blurry at the edges or how the sky was stormy, and yet, it did not affect the sea itself. It didn't matter. His attention was needed elsewhere. In fact, it was needed downwards, to the deck of the ship. Alright, where are you, Sakura? He asked himself. If these, whatever they were, he was tempted to call them dreams, had one thing in common: they were focused on his old teammate. He found her standing at the prow, but she was too far away for him to hear. I wonder if I can get down. It shouldn't be that hard. This wasn't reality. The same rules didn't apply. For all he knew, he could let go, fall, and land perfectly safe on the deck. So he did just that. He would have liked to say that he felt the wind rushing past him, or the air screaming in his ear as he fell. But that would have been a lie. He didn't hear anything on the way down. When he landed on the deck, he made no sounds and he felt nothing in his legs. It was like he truly was one of those shades he had seen in the forest. He made his way up to the prow. She was still standing there, her hands clenched into fists at her side. I'm almost there, Mikoto, she said to the air. Mom's going to find the men who killed you and make them regret it. You'll be able to rest in peace then, I promise you that. So, you're talking to yourself now, Sakura? Naruto thought. I know I do it, but at least I have someone with me to talk back to. At least he used to. She stopped talking to her daughter and unclenched her hands. Naruto, she began. I don't know if you can hear me. But you haven't heard me the last 100 times I've talked to you. It helps. He was too busy being stunned that she was even trying to talk to him to actually try and say anything. We're going to be reaching Midgard soon. Once we're there, I will make them pay for what they did to Mikoto. They killed her. They ripped her apart like she was an animal. I'm going to give them the same fate. She paused for a moment, and then spoke again. Would you have approved of what I'm going to do to them? She shook her head. Probably not. You were the one who was most adamant about bringing Sasuke back to the village. You never gave up on him, unlike the rest of us. Would you have tried to stop me from doing this? Cammy, so many questions, she remarked. But it all comes down to just two questions that were never answered. If you had chosen someone, would things be different? If you had chosen me, would you still be here? She looked up to the sky. Sometimes I wonder if only we had a little more time on that hill. If only Kiba and Shikamaru hadn't revealed themselves, you might have been mine. Would you have said differently? He didn't know about that, but he did know what she was talking about. Even though it was long in the past, he couldn't help but blush at the thought of the memory. She had been so close then. He could smell her scent, like fresh rain and her namesake blossoming. Her eyes were watching his, her lips just slightly parted. Footsteps came from behind them both, echoing again and again in Naruto's ear and bringing him back to what was happening. Shikamaru was coming this way. Funny, they were out at sea and yet, he only saw them. There was no one else on the deck, just the three of them, if he counted at all. There also weren't any other ships, just the one they were standing on. Sakura, Shikamaru said in greeting to her, as he walked up to her side. Shikamaru, she replied, still looking out at sea. Are you talking to Naruto again? Yes. After a paused moment, she looked at him. Do you think that this war would be different if he was here? You mean if your daughter would still be alive if he was here? Yes, she answered without hesitation. He did hesitate, but only for a moment. No, I don't think it would be different. He couldn't be everywhere all the time. The last war proved that. It was obvious that she wanted to say otherwise, but Shikamaru had been one of the leading tacticians for the Alliance during the war for a reason. When it came to making judgment calls about battles and warfare, his word could be taken for gold. She knew that, and that's why she didn't argue. Then I guess it would have come down to whether he would come or not. He would have, but not to destroy them. He would have come to make sure you were able to stop before going too far. I am able to stop myself, Shikamaru, she told him. No, you can't, Sakura. The only reason we've let you come is because if we tried stopping you, you would have turned on us. That's not true. I would never hurt my friends. The look on his face told her that he didn't believe it. I know Mikoto was your favorite child, Sakura. But please remember that you have other children too. Don't forget about them when you're going through the Cliff Warriors, trying to take vengeance. If they offer up the ones who killed her, they will be the only ones who died horribly. He frowned. She wasn't the only one who died at Anreikyo. You aren't the only who lost someone there. How do you think Karen or Anko feel? She didn't answer and he just groused. How troublesome. Look, we'll be approaching New Alfheim in 2 days. Good, she said, her hands tightening into fists again. Sakura, you will be under my command during this invasion, he said in a hard voice. Shikamaru had rarely used that voice, and when he did, all who listened paid attention to him. I expect you to obey me. Just let me be at the front, and you won't hear any complaints from me, Shikamaru, she told him. Fine, he said before he walked away. Awooga, 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 awooga. Oh, now what? Thought Naruto as he came out of sleep with that damn alarm going off over his head. He stumbled out of the bed, grabbed a couple of kunai off the table, started for the door. Joker, what's happening? He shouted over the alarm, but as soon as it started, the alarm stopped. Sorry, Commander, Joker said over the intercom. Somebody hit the alarm by mistake. He was going for the button next to it, and misjudged the angle of his hand. He stopped at the door and then looked up. Are you kidding me? No. It actually happens more than you would think with the crew. Plus, this is a new ship. We're still getting used to how it works. The intercom went silent, and he was left standing at the door with kunai in his hands. Aren't they supposed to have trained before this thing gets out to space? He asked the air. He didn't get a reply. He scowled and stomped back down to the bed, placing the kunai back on the table. Then he stared at the bed for a long second. I'm already up, he decided. He went over to the closet and fished out some clothes and sandals. The sandals were a perfect fit and made him realize how much he had missed wearing them. When he wore them, it felt like his toes could actually breathe. Plus, there was no need to wear socks when it came to sandals. Sometimes, socks could be very annoying. Once he was dressed and armed, he would be stupid not to be. He left the den and went down to the crew deck. When the doors opened, he stepped out and then around the elevator, heading straight for the kitchen area, passing a few people sitting at the mess table. He was hoping to find something that was edible, maybe some ramen. Then he saw the cook and knew the choice was going to be out of his hands. The cook looked particularly grouchy as he stood behind the counter. That is, until he looked at Naruto and stood up straighter. Jonin Naruto Uzumaki, hero of the Citadel. It is an honor to serve under you, sir, he declared. You did humanity a great thing that day, showing the aliens that we were something to be feared if pushed. Thanks, the blonde replied. And you are? Chunin Shinsato from IWA, he introduced himself with a salute. I joined the Akatsuki when I realized the alliance was bowing to the council and didn't want to be a part of that. What can I get ya? Just whatever is edible. That would be nothing. One of the people from the mess table shouted. If you want to live, stock up on instant. Shut it, you! The cook roared. My food is perfectly edible, yeah, if we want to die or have a heart condition. Someone else at the table replied. He glared at the table but then turned his attention to the blonde still standing in front of him. Aye, Commander, something edible. He went to work and Naruto was soon given a warm bowl of something. It looked edible but actually being edible was something else entirely. The food looked like it was about halfway between being soup or paste and couldn't decide which one it wanted to be. He could see some solid lumps in it, but that just made him question it even more. He began walking to the mess table when he stopped and looked over his shoulder at the medical center. He grabbed a fork off the table and headed towards the medical center. Chuck, was you in? He asked as he walked through the door. She was sitting at her desk looking over some files as he came in. She turned her head to look at him and smiled. Yes, I am in. It's good to see you again, Commander Naruto. Nice to see you too, Doc. I'm glad to see you out of the Normandy alive. His attention went back down to the food he held in his hand. Should he eat it? Should he not? Have you never had oatmeal before, Commander? She asked him with an amused look on her face. Oatmeal? He repeated. What's that? She chuckled at that. Just try it, you might like it. He stared down at the bowl again. The warmth of the bowl was leaving and he probably didn't want to eat this thing cold. So he braced himself, dug the fork into the oatmeal, pulled out a scoop, and ate it. He chewed for a moment, and then swallowed. Not that bad actually, he finally decided. What exactly was the crew complaining about with the cook? Chuck watched him as he ate his breakfast, a sad expression showing on her face. I heard about what happened to you. I am sorry for what the tribe did. He stopped eating for a moment and looked at her. Is there any chance you could get the inhibitors out of me? He didn't trust what the Akatsuki said when it came to him and his body, but she just shook her head. I looked over what they said, Commander. If you wanted to get them out, you would need a surgical procedure, a team of highly trained medical personnel, half of which would most likely have to be medical shinobi, and a great deal of luck. So I've basically only got one out for, is that it? He always did have a good amount of luck. Yes. I am sorry. Please don't apologize. You weren't the one who put these things in me. But tell me, why did you leave the Alliance? After the Normandy was lost, the surviving crew was reassigned. I was stationed at the Odin Naval Medical Center. A very respectable position, but it wasn't on a starship. I'm used to all of this. She gestured widely with both arms. I'm used to the engines humming, the bulkheads creaking, that subtle vertigo when the momentum dampeners kick in. Compared to that, life on a stationary planet was just too static, too boring. Some people would consider that a good thing. Not me, he understood. So you joined the Akatsuki? Not exactly the best deal one could make. Her eyes hardened at that, enough to warn him that he needed to tread lightly. I don't work for the Akatsuki. I work for you, so I can trust you to watch my back. Yes, you can. He smiled at her, glad to hear it. Thank you? Her eyes lost the hardness, and she smiled gently back at him. He looked around the place. It was bigger than the previous one. He wasn't a doctor, so he did not know if everything was in the right place. You're supplied properly? He asked Dr. Chukwas. Of course, she answered. The only thing missing is my private reserves. I had a bottle of Serai ice brandy that I had been saving for a special occasion. You want me to keep an eye out for a replacement? She shook her head at that. You shouldn't worry about it. It's expensive and quite frankly, we have more pressing matters to attend to. You know, if Tsunade had heard you say that, you risk getting a slap that'd knock you to the ground or being called a blasphemous heathen. She laughed. The Godame Hokage enjoyed her drinks, didn't she? He nodded in agreement. If alcohol was a religion, she would have been the high priestess. But she also had a saying when it came to the stuff, which was, to treasure the small moments. Those are always the good times to remember. Those are good words. I know. His oatmeal was finished. He turned around to the door. I will see you soon, Doc. I'll keep an eye out for the ice brandy. I gotta go. Goodbye, Commander, she said to him. Bye, he said with a wave of his hand as he walked out the door. Now to go find that sister of mine, he thought to himself. Cammy, that still took getting used to. Ruko! Ruko! Where are you? He shouted as he made his way through the pipes and cables that ran beneath the engine deck. The two engineers had pointed out this place when he asked where they had seen Ruko. They also made mention of some kind of cables that they would like to have in the ship. What the fuck do you want? He heard her call out from just up ahead. Aren't you supposed to ask who? He asked as he came into sight of her. I knew it was you, she told him from where she sat on the bench. How? I got a set of ears, don't I? Plus, I could tell it was you. She said the last part with a small measure of uncertainty. That uncertainty didn't last long. What the fuck do you want? I said that we were going to talk, so talk. He eyed her for a moment. She was most definitely his clone, from the blonde hair, blue eyes, and the whiskered birthmarks. Even the skin tone was the same, a healthy complexion if not a little pale from the lack of light. But even then, there were differences between them, 3 that were noticeable right from the stop. The first was the fact that she was a woman and thus had a woman's hourglass body and breasts that looked like they were a D-cup. Once again, he had Jiraiya to thank for that useless little technique. The second was that every part of her visible body, stopping at her neck, was covered in tattoos. It wasn't just one giant tattoo on her body, but a myriad of them. There was no sense of pattern or flow to them. It looked like they were placed there when she felt like it. The third was her hair. The best description he could find for it was a messy pixie cut. There was enough hair to form very short locks on her head, and that was it. She was still wearing the clothes she had on when she had been free, the prison jumpsuit zipped up to her waist and black shirt that left her arms bare and stopped at her midriff. Did you find anything you needed in the files? He asked. There had been more files on the Normandy than there had been on the other ship, something he was sure that she preferred. Nothing about me so far, but I gotta say, your friends in the Akatsuki are into some nasty shit. He frowned. They aren't my friends. Her face winced in pain for a moment, and then returned to the self-confidence and barely held anger it had on before. Could have fooled me, she told him. He noticed the wince. What was that? What was what? That wince your face just made, what was that? It was nothing. Really? he asked. Really, she replied with a tone in her voice that told him to drop it. Then she felt guilty for no reason and decided to change the subject. You know, that hunter woman is interesting to hang around with. Now he was the one who was telling her to drop it, only with a look. She took the hint. He looked around the place they were in. Why are you down here? You can get better quarters. He would make sure of it. It's dark, quiet, and hard to find. I like that. I like it when I'm on my own. You don't have to be. You're not alone anymore. Again, her face winced. Was it something he was saying to her? I'm always alone. Anyone else who said otherwise ended up leaving. But you're not alone. I'm here. She was getting angry at his words. What the hell did he know about her? Oh, and what exactly does that make you to me? To that, he smiled. Your brother. That just made her even angrier. I don't have a brother. Yes, you do. You've got me. No, I don't. I don't have a brother. I don't have brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, or even a mom and dad. Do you get it? I have no one, but you do now. You've got me. You're my sister. I'm your brother. It was as simple as that to him. She barked out a harsh laugh. You think I'm stupid? You think I'm blind? They told me what I was when they experimented on me, calling me nothing but a fake, a clone, a waste of time and skin whenever they failed. I'm not your sister. I'm just Naruto Uzumaki who they decided to turn into a girl. She wanted him to admit that, to say it was the truth. She wasn't his sister. She was just a clone, but he didn't back down from his words. I never said you were stupid or blind. But I am saying that you are wrong. You have someone now. You have me and I say you're my sister. He smiled warmly at her. I always did want one. She didn't know if it was the words or the smile. But Ruko was just so angry at him, angry and afraid. Don't call me that, she screamed, her red biotics flaring up. What the fuck do you know? She took her biotics and threw them right at him. They hit him square in the stomach and sent him flying back into the wall, banging his head against it with a resounding clang. He fell to the ground, completely dizzy. Ow, that hurt. Gah, finally! Shouted Kurama. Wait, what? What the hell took you so long in getting these damn things off, Gaki? Are you getting soft on us? You're talking to me. Yeah, I am. It's kinda hard to talk when you've got a muzzle around your mouth. Kurama, do me a favor and complain when you're stuck in a jar. Saiken shouted. Or have your head stuck in a head case. Isabu added. He could hear them talking in his head. Was he hallucinating them because he missed them so much? Wait, if he could hear them and he wasn't hallucinating, then would that mean? He stood up from where he fell and faced the wall. With no hesitation, he placed one foot on the wall and channeled his chakra into. Nothing in him was set aflame and he wasn't screaming on the floor, wishing for it all to stop. He put his other foot on the wall and channeled his chakra into it as well. Still nothing happened to him. He did a quick jog up and around the area, coming back to the floor with a stop. Heh 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 heh, he began chuckling. Ruko had been watching him, unsure if she should try apologizing to him. A big part of her wanted to, but the rest of her screamed not to show any weakness. But when he started chuckling, she looked at him with confusion. Hey, you okay? She asked him. He 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 ha 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 h a h a h a h a h a h a h a h a. He began laughing loudly and joyously. Without warning, he swooped over to her, picked her up, swung her around once, and gave her a big kiss on the forehead. You are the best sister I could have ever asked for. What the fuck is wrong with you? Nothing, that's what, you beautiful, angry woman. He let go of her and ran back for the stairs, all the while screaming happily at the top of his voice, I can use chakra again. Okay, let me see if I've got this right, Miranda said as they all stood in the medical bay, surrounding him and Dr. Chukwas. After you incited a borderline psychopath biotic, whose powers and abilities are on the far side of the danger scale, into a rage, she threw her biotics at you and now you can use chakra again? Yep, that's what happened, Ruko said from where she was leaning against the bay wall. I was not talking to you. Please remember your manners. Ooh, the cheerleader's upset, she remarked with a smug grin. What fun. I will have to do a few more tests, Chukwas said to Naruto as she removed the last needle from him. But based on the preliminary findings, I would say that she didn't crack open all the inhibitors, just about 81 of them. But I can still use my chakra, he said in slight protest. You've used it to walk on the walls and that's it. I think the question is not if you can use your chakra or not, but to what degree you can use. We could probably say that he can walk on water again, Miranda said. It's the same basic principle as walking on the walls, plus we're not likely to find water out in space. And what if we land on a planet that a lot of water? What then, princess? Ruko asked her. Actually, there's an easy way to determine it. Dr. Chukwas took a deep pan and filled it with water. Once it was sloshing with the stuff, she put it on the floor. If you will, Commander, she said to the blonde. He rose up a foot and placed it on the water, channeling his chakra through it. It stopped on the surface and stayed there. He smiled at the sight, glad to have been able to do it. Thank Cammy, he said. Well, that's covered, Jacob remarked. But the question of how they were broken in the first place still remains, Miranda told him. She looked over at the doctor and asked, Do you have any idea which ones were broken? I hit him in the stomach if that's any help, Ruko said. As a matter of fact, it does, Dr. Chukwas said. I suspect that you broke the inhibitors surrounding the seal. And damn good thing too, Gyuki said. We really didn't like having the muzzles on. Hey, there was a good thing about it, Shikaka said to him. What? It kept you from talking all the time. We could say the same thing about you. Naruto started to laugh, getting everyone's attention. Sorry, he said to them. My tenants are arguing and complaining. Uncertainty was the look they all shared at those words. Is that normal? Ruko asked him. She may have been his clone, but he was the one who had the demons sealed away in him. Oh, they do it all the time. I'm just glad to be able to hear them again. They were saying that they had been muzzled by the inhibitors. Which is another question, Miranda said. Since you can hear the Biju again, can you access their chakra? I don't know. Let me find out. He closed his eyes and turned his attention inward. Hey Fox, a little help here? Working on it, Kurama replied. He began to feel the chakra coming towards, only to have everything be set on fire. He distantly heard screaming and someone shouting, Hold him steady. Luckily, the pain only lasted a few minutes or so, leaving him panting like he needed water in the chair. Ow, damn it! Kurama, how about some warning before you turn on the pain? Yelled Shikaku. Hey, I didn't know it was going to happen. What the hell did you think was going to happen? We feel the pain every time he's tried it before. Commander, are you okay? He heard Dr. Chukwas ask him. Yeah, I'm fine, he answered, still breathing heavily. So I'm guessing that using the Biju is a no-go? Jacob asked him. No, he just started screaming and thrashing around for the hell of it, Ruko said with heavy sarcasm to weigh them down. Hey, I'm the only one who gets to use that kind of sarcasm on me, Naruto told her, but with a small weary grin. I'll take that under advisement. And that's not the worst of it. What would be? Miranda asked. They feel the same pain I do. That puts a problem on trying to figure out which jutsu I can use. I can handle the pain, but them? I don't want to put up with them being angry with me. Smart, Gaki, very smart, Kurama told him. Doctor, any suggestions? Asked Jacob. I'm afraid not, sorry, Chukwas said. This is not exactly my field of expertise. You'd need a chakra scientist to help figure this all out. Well, we don't have one of those and we can't afford to break into one of their strongholds to get one, Naruto said. So we're basically up shit creek without a paddle. That was never a good place to be. No, we are not, Miranda said. There is someone we can go to, Morden Solis. He had heard that name before. That's Ilarian doctor your boss told me about. The very same, she said. Officially, Dr. Solis is a retired professor with advanced degrees in genetics and biology. He now works as a healer on Omega. And unofficially? He asked. Nobody used the word officially unless there was an unofficially to go with it. Unofficially, he is one of the leading aliens on chakra theory. The Council has made numerous attempts to bring him in so he can aid them, but he has refused each time, saying that without chakra, it would be pointless. So now we're going to have him look at me and my chakra. That's the plan? Yes. Not exactly a good plan, he told her. Humanity would rather have died out completely than give up the secrets to chakra use. Now they were telling him that they might just have to do that. Miranda was aware of that. But she was also aware of the other side. It may be the only plan we have. Not only that, but we don't know what the tribe has, Jacob added. They had you for over 2 years, Commander. For all we know, they could bring him on with what they have. But even then, they don't have him to work on, so they'll send someone to hunt him down, Kwamisley said where she stood at the door. She stared silent throughout the conversation, preferring to watch then speak. Miranda nodded in agreement. We need to get to Dr. Solis first. He might be the only chance we have to figure out how the inhibitors can be taken out safely. I doubt that biotic punches to your body will do the trick. She threw a look at Ruko as she spoke. She noticed. You want to go, cheerleader? She growled, flexing her hands. I wouldn't mind giving you a beat down. Please, you wouldn't last 5 seconds against me. See, that's where you're wrong. You won't last that long against me. Naruto saw biotic started to flicker across their arms. Hey, no fighting in the med bay. He at them both. You will not break that sacred rule. He had learned not to break that rule by watching what happened to rule breakers by Tsunade's hand. When she was being gentle, it looked like they had been knocked to the ground. When she wasn't, it wasn't pretty. They looked his way and saw how serious he was. Then they noticed how the good doctor was staring rather pointedly at them. Whatever biotics they were charging, they let die. What are your orders, Commander? Jacob asked him. It's not like we have a choice here, he remarked. Miranda, go tell Joker to chart a course to Omega. Aye, Commander, she said, turning for the door. Quan Misley got out of her way as she passed. She spared Ruko a passing look which the biotic kept as she walked by, the door closing behind her. He stood up from his chair and also began walking for the door. Jacob, with me, he ordered. Quan Misley, go about your business. Ruko, we still need to talk. The hunter just saluted and Ruko rolled her eyes. Whatever. Sir, what are we doing? Jacob asked him, hurrying to follow him. We have reached that eventually I told you about. It's time I got me some Churka clips. Location, Omega. Every time he had gone to Omega since the first, whenever Arya wanted him, she would send her swordsman to go collect him. Sometimes it had been when the ship had just docked, and sometimes it would be in the middle of their stop there. But he would always be there, waiting in full view of the security feeds. The fact that he was now standing before the gate leading to the docked ship as the team came through did not bode well. Neither was that amused smirk on his lips. You, my friend, are in the deepest shit I have ever seen, he told Naruto. I take it she wants to see me, the blonde replied. It wasn't a question. He knew the answer to it, but Kojiro's smirk grew wider. It's not a question of whether she wants to see you or not. It's a question of how she's going to mount you. Ooh, nice wordplay there, Matatabi commented. Really? Asked her host. What? It was. She does have a point, Isabu agreed. Yes, she does, Komiai added. Lead the way, he said to the swordsman, ignoring his tenants. But of course. They followed him down the corridor. No one said a word as they walked through Omega, not even as they walked into Afterlife. He felt the music wash over him, and he watched everyone go about their business. Nothing's really changed. He didn't know if that was a good thing or not, especially with Omega. As Kojiro led them to the back, he saw that one of the new bartenders was new and he knew who she was. Guess it was the bartender job after all. She certainly looked happier there. He walked to that familiar private area and saw her standing at the couch, looking over what was hers. There were guards all around them, just like the last times. As he took this all in and noticed that she still hadn't turned to look at him, an idea came to him. Gaki, that's liable to get you splattered across the wall behind you, Kurama warned him. I know, and you're still going to do it. You know me well. He lifted his head slightly and said, Hi, honey, I'm home. While the guards, Miranda, and Jacob looked at him like he had grown a second head, Quan Misley showed nothing and Ruko just snorted in laughter. You've got balls, she told him. What he has is gross stupidity, Arya said as she finally turned around. She walked down the steps until she was face to face with the blonde. In the blink of an eye, she pulled out a kunai and held it against his eye. Everyone raised their guns, pointing them at everyone else. But those two did not move. You still have it, Naruto remarked with a small grin. It's nice to see you have some sentimentality. Do you want me to kill you right here and now? She threatened him. His grin still stayed there. Has anyone told you that you are very sexy when you're angry? She kept the kunai there for a few seconds more. Then she pulled it away. Only you. Usually we've fucked each other a couple of times. Just me? He asked. Wow, those others you've taken for lovers must have been really blind. She snorted ever so slightly at that. You think you were my lover, Naruto? He fell silent for a moment, his grin disappearing. If I had been younger? Perhaps I might have thought that. You still are young. He shook his head ruefully. No, I'm not. I'm older than you, Arya. We're not lovers, we're fuck buddies. He held up a hand to stop her from speaking. Wait, I believe the term you used was personal stress reliever, right? She smirked. How nice, you remembered. I was only gone for 2 years. The smirk vanished. I'm aware. She turned back around and walked up the steps to her couch, where she sat down. What do you want, Naruto? Can I come up? No. Stand there and tell me what you want. She leaned back and crossed her legs. As sexy as always, he thought to himself. Focus, Gaki, Kurama told him. I know, he replied. He was here on business. I'm looking a guy named Morden Solus. And what makes you think I know where he is? He sighed. I get it, Arya. You're a little more than pissed at me. I take you out on a date and then disappear for 2 years. I get that. But I'm not here to beg for your forgiveness. You and I both know that you wouldn't see me if I did. So let's focus on what I want from you and talk about what you're going to do to me later, okay? No one said a word after that, letting the music fill their ears. They were all waiting for her to make the reply. She didn't do it right away. She stared at the blonde with a neutral expression, like she was looking for something. No one knew what that something was. Some of them wanted to ask but were too afraid to do so, either to her or to the person she was looking at with her undivided attention. Finally, she smirked and leaned her head against her hand. I've forgotten how much I miss your honest tongue, she told him. You missed my tongue for more than just my honesty, he responded, again making everyone look at him like he was an idiot, but she just laughed instead. True, very true, she admitted, that smirk of hers getting more seductive. You have a very talented tongue, and she was doing it again. Arya, could you please just answer my question? You haven't answered mine. Why should I answer yours? I didn't answer yours because it was so obvious a blind man would have seen it. Indulge me, she told him. He sighed again, this time in irritation. You are the queen, boss, CEO, daimyo, lady, kage, and goddess of Omega. There's not a damn thing that goes on here that you don't know about, and no one even so much as breathes without your say-so. Happy now? He asked. Yes, I am. So could you give me an answer already? Last time I heard about him was that he was trying to help the plague victims in the quarantine zone. I always liked Mordin. He's as likely to heal you as he is to shoot you. I'll take that under advisement. Anything you can tell me about him? She shrugged her shoulders, somehow making both enticing and careless at the same time. He used to be part of the Solarian task group. He's brilliant and dangerous. Just don't get him talking. He never shuts up. Duly noted, he told her, doing his best to focus on her face, not her shoulders. If you really need to find him, take the elevator to the quarantine zone. No guarantee they'll let you in, of course. This is Omega, nothing's guaranteed, he reminded her. She chuckled. How true. You've learned. Is there anything else I need to know about him? Not to my mind, no, she told him. All right, my team and I will go pay the good doctor a visit. He turned around for the stairs. Let's go, he told his team. Naruto, she spoke, making him stop in place. You'd better not die in there. We still need to talk. He looked up at her and smiled, his eyes suddenly alight with mischief. Die or not, I'll see you again in the afterlife, Arya. But it's nice to know that you care. She watched him leave, never saying anything. But she did smirk. After getting through the elevator to the quarantine zone, through which he had a brief argument with the Turian guarding said elevator, and the woman he was preventing from getting in, Naruto and his team stepped off into the quarantine zone. Time to play the game, he said, just loud enough for his team to hear. The first thing they noticed was how quiet it was. There was absolutely no noise except for what they made. Where the fuck is everyone? Ruko said aloud as they walked down the corridor, her voice echoing off the walls. Do you not know what quarantine means? Miranda asked, being both cross and sarcastic at the same time. Shove it, bitch. Not now, you two, Naruto said to them both. They came into a small open area that gave them their first look at the district. It wasn't an improvement, and that wasn't because of the fact it was a district in Omega. The smoke covered the outside like a faint wall, but they could still see through it, and saw nothing. They heard an alarm in the distance and smoke hissing through the grates nearby. The area was scattered by packing boxes, the large kind that came with steel reinforcement. The way that they'd been stacked facing the two entrances meant it was supposed to prevent both people from getting out and getting in. The only problem with that was that there was no one there. Quan Misley saw the same thing he did. She moved forward around the blockage to see if there was anyone crouching in wait for them. We've got a body, she said instead. Looks like a Turian who got the plague. There's nothing we can do about it, Jacob said. We should keep moving. Naruto nodded silently as he pulled the hood of his robe up over his head, letting it drop so that all people could see of his face was just the lower half. They started down the next corridor, heading into the district proper. Once they were through and out the other side, he saw a wall, not a blockade but a proper wall, before him. A Turian popped up from behind the wall and pointed his gun at him. Don't shoot, another voice spoke from behind the wall. They're cleared to come through. The Turian raised his gun and held it there. Naruto just gave a nod and looked around. The wall didn't extend to the walls. They could easily slip around, which they did. They walked down to the door that led into the actual district. Good luck in there, the guard standing by the door told them. The Blue Suns and Vorsha are shooting anything that moves. None of them said anything as they walked through the door and down the steps. But at the bottom, they came across two blue suns standing in front of the next door. They noticed them just as quickly. "Hey, what are you doing here?" the guard on the right, a Batarian, demanded as they walked closer. "We want to go inside," Miranda told them. "Why?" "We need to see more in Solus," Jacob answered. "Why?" "It's important business." That just made them rise up their guns. "No one from outside goes to see the doctor," the guard on the left, a human, said. "You're going to let us in," Naruto said to them, his voice at a normal tone. "Why's that?" "Because we're willing to kill you to get through," he answered. "Last chance, let us in." "You're not going in," the Batarian said, holding his gun right in the hooded blonde's face. He wasn't worried. "Ruko, the left one," he told his sister. Her grin was feral as she clenched her hand, letting her red biotics course through it. She drew it back and then swung it at the blue sun's human, hitting him with an audible thump. He flew backwards through the air, his neck hanging languidly, showing that it had already been broken. He hit the wall and fell down in a crumble. Naruto moved in 3 motions, knocking the gun out of his face with one hand, breaking the Batarian's knee with a single kick, and firing 1 bullet into his skull, right between the 4 eyes. And it was a futon-enhanced bullet, so the hole in the back of the head was bigger than the one in the front. The blood that splattered against the wall did so in a spiral pattern. As the Batarian fell to the ground, he just stared at the body. "I did warn you," he said shortly, lowering the gun. They stepped over the body as they continued. "We're likely to encounter more opposition like this from the Blue Suns," Miranda told him. "I know. We're going to have a fight on our hands." "No, we won't." "Are you sure about that, sir?" Jacob asked him as they came to the door. "Yes." "How?" he asked. The door opened, but they did not step through, not yet. Instead, he looked back at them. "Just stay behind me." But before they did that, he raised a hand to stop them. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" Ruko asked him. All she heard was the district pissing its life away. "I hear it, sir," Kwanmizli told him. It was the sound of someone coughing and wheezing out their existence. "Come on." He stepped through the door. The first thing they saw was the piles of bodies burning. Naruto had seen it before, during the war. Sometimes the only way to get rid of all the bodies was to burn them like that. It was especially true when shinobi died on the field. Later and later into the war, the fear of Obito using Edo Tensei started taking hold in people's minds, so the best way for that not to happen was to burn them when they died. Amidst the burning bodies and the smell of cooked flesh and smoke, Naruto only had one thought. "Feels like I never left." "Could you be morbid later?" the Kyuubi asked him. He found the source of the coughing and the wheezing. It was a Batarian on the ground leaning against the nearby wall. He walked over and looked down. "Are you all right?" he asked as his team watched from a short distance. "Human." "Should have guessed," spat the Batarian at him when he looked up. Then he started to cough. "Bad enough you infect us with this plague. But now you lack the decency to even wait until I die before you come to steal my possessions. You need help." "What can I do?" He reached for the gun at his side and pointed it upwards at the human. "Get away from me, human. Your kind has done too much already. Your plague did this to me. Your feigned pity is the final insult." Naruto could tell he barely had the strength to hold the gun, much less pull the trigger. "Do you know where Morden Solus is?" he scoffed, coughing again. "Humans looking for the human sympathizer," he spat. "I hope the Vorsha burned Morden and his clinic to the ground." His coughing grew rapid and worse. "I don't give a damn about what you think about humans. Just tell me where Morden is. Go, fuck yourself. You and your slut of a mouth." He fired 1 shot into the Batarian's skull, killing him instantly. "I don't care about what you think of humans," he said to the dead body as it slumped even further down. "My mother, on the other hand, is someone you insult at your own risk." Jacob was shocked at the sudden move. Ruko grinned. "Damn, who knew you had a set on you?" she remarked. When she heard his words, an image of a red-headed woman flashed before her eyes and made her want to cave the Batarian's skull in. "What do we do now, sir?" Kwanmizli asked. "What we were going to do." He looked past the Batarian to the hallway. "We're going to the clinic." As they walked down the hallway, no one walked past Naruto's shoulder. Even though they were behind him, they still felt a chill run down their spines and they knew what that meant. He had unleashed his intent to kill and kept it focused forward. It worked. Every time that they came across Blue Suns, they could hear the gulps across the room. When they got close, the guards quickly got out of the way. No one said a word to them and they didn't say a word back. They kept their focus on making sure they stayed behind Naruto. But while it did work, it was also a method that troubled Kwanmizli. She didn't remember the blonde being like this. He would have just walked through the district, fighting everyone that tried to stop him. He would also stop and check every locked door that they came across to make sure that there was no one inside, and if they were, ensure that they were okay. But now he would pass those doors without a second look. They got far into the district before things turned against them. At some point, Naruto stopped seeing Batarians and humans in Blue Sun's uniforms and starting seeing Vorsha. They were ugly-looking creatures who looked like Kami couldn't decide on how to make, eventually settling for something between a bear and bug. But what was surprising was the fact that there was a Krogan and a tall human packing a heavy gun with the Vorsha, wearing a horned helmet. "I thought the Vorsha were alone in this," he remarked as he came close and close to them. "If there are Krogan and Einherjar with the Vorsha, that can only mean one thing," Jacob said. "The Blood Pack is making a territory grab and they appear to be quite successful at it so far," Miranda said for him. "That might have been troubling, if it had anything to do with them." "We keep moving," Naruto told them all, keeping his intent focus forward. He could see that the disgraced Einherjar already had shaking hands and the Krogan was becoming nervous. But the Vorsha weren't reacting. "You might want to stop with the intent there," Ruko told him. "Why?" he asked. "The Vorsha take that kind of thing as an invitation, not as a warning." Already she could see the damn things getting eager and agitated. Naruto saw the same thing. It was probably already too late to try and get past peacefully, but he still had to try. He lost the intent, but brought his hands to his sides. "We just want to go see Morden Solis," he announced loudly and clearly into the room. The Krogan and the Einherjar shared at a look at that. "Let us pass and we won't kill you." The Krogan looked back at them and grinned. "Kill them," he ordered. The Vorsha flooded forward like a pack of hounds after the scent. "Miranda, Ruko, take them out," the blonde told the two biotics with him. One blue and one red arm rose up. A black hole suddenly appeared above the running Vorsha, sucking them in and then holding them in orbit. The other biotic just started throwing them to the walls, breaking every bone in their body. The few who weren't thrown by the time the black hole stopped were shot by Quan Misli, Jacob, and Naruto. "Flashbang," he said once the Vorsha were all dead. The hunter acted, throwing the grenade at the remaining blood pack. It was far enough for them to see it work and not feel a thing, while the Krogan and Einherjar stumbled and blinked. "Take out the Krogan," he ordered before sprinting for the human. It wasn't a fight. It was a simple takedown. The disgraced was still recovering when Naruto struck, knocking his weapon out of his hands and then sending him straight down to the ground. He pointed a gun at that horned helmet. "Any last words?" he asked. The Einherjar looked at the gun, then at him, and then at his own weapon. But he knew that he would not make it. So he just clasped his hands together. "Lady Sakura, mistress of vengeance and final judger of the Einherjar, may you find me worthy to enter Valhalla." For a moment, Naruto didn't pull the trigger. Hearing those words brought him back to those dreams he was having. He felt compelled to say something. "I knew Sakura. Your people murdered her daughter. I don't think she'll find you innocent." He pulled the trigger. He heard something akin to a roar and saw the Krogan fly through the air and hitting the wall in a crumpled slump. "My kill!" shouted Ruko as she reappeared. "That was mine," Miranda replied, following her. "You wish I'd say that you hit him at the same time," Jacob threw in his 2 cents worth. "That's because you hung back with the gun and tried shooting him," Ruko replied. "You could have gotten up close and personal to take him, like you did?" Miranda asked pointedly. "Having fun?" Naruto asked as he joined them, stepping over the Einherjar's body. "No. We still need to find Dr. Solis." "I agree. Let's keep it moving." There was a door on the far side of the room. That's where they needed to go. They fell in behind once more as he unleashed the intent to kill before him. Fortunately, there was no one else to stand in their way as they went through the door and hanging a right in the next room for the next door. Beyond the door was a flight of stairs going down. At the bottom of the stairs on the wall was a familiar cross with the word clinic glowing brightly beneath it. "Sir, I don't think you need to keep doing that," Jacob told him. "I know," he replied, stopping his killing intent. They walked down the steps and took the right through the entranceway. It was a U-turn of a corridor that showed them a door and a counter on the left with a human on the other side. He held a gun in his hands and there were armed mechs behind him. "What do you guys want?" the human demanded once he caught sight of them. "We want to go see the doctor," Naruto told him. He eyed them for a second. He didn't know them and they didn't look like the regular crowd. But then again, this was Omega and they were dealing with a plague. "Alright, go in. But put those weapons away first. And remember, no funny business once you're in the clinic, not unless to deal with those mechs." He gestured with his head at them. "That's fine." He put his guns away, so did the rest of the team, and walked through the door. The first thing they heard was the noise. It was the culmination of people talking to one another, to themselves, or just flat out groaning in pain. They were everywhere too, huddled together, sitting in chairs, or leaning against something for support. The majority of them were Turian and Batarian. The receptionist barely looked from her computer to look at them, seeing that they were human. Sorry, too busy to stop and chat. You should go find Morden, she told them. Where is he? Naruto asked. That way, she answered, waving her hand a vague direction as her head went back to the computer screen. Helpful, Saiken said acidly. You can see what I see, he silently replied. He looked around at where she was waving and saw a corridor going further into the clinic. Figuring it was a good place to start, he started down that way. It paid off when he heard someone say, Professor, we're running low on Suboxidin. It sounded human to his ears. Use Malinarin, was the reply from the right entrance of the T section he was coming up on. Plenty on hand. Almost as good. Causes cramping in Batarians. Supplement with butemerol. His team had caught up to him. They looked in the room where the voices were coming from. It was a doctor's room done large with more than one table to work on. There was one human working on a patient, and a Solarian working on another. It was the Solarian he was interested. He was working diligently at his station. Morden Solus? Asked Naruto, stepping up to him. The Solarian turned him. His uniform was red and white and was armored in just the right places to protect him. His skin was red paling to white with scaring underneath one eye, and one of his horns was shorter than the other. He walked over to him, and waved his Omni-Tool-activated hand over him and his team. Don't recognize you from area, he remarked as he looked at his Omni-Tool. He went back to work, still talking. Too well armed to be refugees. No mercenary uniforms. Quarantine still in effect. Here for something else? Vorsha? Crew to clean them out? Unlikely. Vorsha a symptom, not a cause. He came back to them, still talking. The plague? Investigating possible use as bioweapon? No. Too many guns, not enough data equipment. Soldiers not scientists. Yes. Yes. Hired guns? Looking for someone? Yes. But who? You, Professor Solus, Naruto answered his question, stopping him before he could talk even further. We're here for you. We need your help with something. Help? No. Too busy. Clinic understaffed. Plague spreading too fast. Who sent you? You're going to tell him? Isaba asked him. Of course, better him knowing from the start, he replied. Have you ever heard of the Akatsuki? He asked the Solarian. That got his attention. Cross paths on occasion. Thought they only worked with humans. Why request Solarian aid? Because quite frankly, I can't go to the Alliance for this one, he said as he lowered his hood. Can you guess why? Why are you testing him out? Kurama asked. I want to see if he can figure it out. You could just tell him, but it wouldn't tell me if he's worth risking it. Morden stared at him, his eyes looking over everything. Face familiar. Have seen on news. Naruto Uzumaki? Impossible. Been dead for 2 years. Unless not dead. Kidnapped? Who? The Akatsuki? No. Would not work with them if captors. Tribe of Athame, only other organization able to hide such thing for so long. Must be them. Why? Tribe only interested in obtaining use of chakra. Would never let go once had hold. Akatsuki must have broken you out. But tribe much too smart. Would not let you go so easily. Probably handicapped in some way. His eyes came alight as he realized the situation. Chakra blocked. Cannot be used. Came to me for help since could not go to Alliance. It was fast-paced but Naruto was able to hear all of it. Yes. That's it, dream come true. Have always wanted to study chakra. But must refuse. Priority must be plague. He turned back to his Omni-Tool and started working again. So if the plague is taken care of, you're free to help? Yes. His eyes quickly glanced up. Suggest help? Yeah, I do. Help needed. Much thanks. He went over to a computer and typed quickly on it. Luckily, already have cure. Need to distribute it at Environmental Control Center. Vorsha guarding it. Need to kill them, he stated, looking back at them all. We'll take care of it, the blonde assured him, understanding what he was silently telling them. The quiet hissing sound that had been the sign of life in the district came to an audible groaning halt. The lights in the room turned red and stayed there. That sounded troubling, Miranda remarked. No shit, cheerleader, Ruko said in reply. Morden was looking at his Omni-Tool, figuring out what had happened. Vorsha have shut down environmental systems. Trying to kill everyone. Need to get power back on before district suffocates. We'll take care of it, Naruto assured him again. He turned away from the computer and went back to him. Here, take plague cure, he urged, handing it to the blonde. Also, bonus in good faith. Weapon from Dead Blue Sun's Merc. May come in handy against Vorsha. He held out the gun in question. Thanks, he said, taking the gun and immediately handing it to his sister. That's for you, Ruko. Sweet, she said with a feral grin as she took it. One more thing, Morden said to him. Daniel, one of my assistants, went into Vorsha territory, looking for victims. Hasn't come back yet. I'll keep an eye out, but I make no promises. He looked around the place for a moment, and then back at him. I'll leave 2 of my people here to provide you with additional manpower. You look like you could need it. Additional manpower greatly helpful. Thank you. It's not a problem. Jacob, Quan Misley, you're staying? Yes, sir, Jacob said instantly. Quan Misley said nothing. Miranda, Ruko, we're heading for the environmental center. Aye, Commander, Miranda said in reply. Ruko rolled her eyes. Suck up much? She got an eyeful but nothing else. Yes. Good. Restore power. Release cure. We'll be here when you return, Morden said to him. Path to environmental controls will be through other door in lobby. Good to know, he said. He turned around and walked out with 2 biotics behind him. The other door in the lobby exited out to a flight of stairs just like the other one. The only difference was that there were Vorsha waiting for them, behind barricades and looking like they armed. They never make it easy, do they? Ruko asked as she leaned out from behind the edge to look at the numbers. Ah hell, what the fuck am I saying? This just makes it more fun. I assume that you know how to use a gun? Miranda asked her from the other side, looking down at the hand cannon the Solarian had given them. That earned her a look. Did you think I was able to get away from you lot this long just by my biotics, badass as they may be? Don't worry your pretty little head, cheerleader. I know how to use a gun. Sheesh, and I thought guys were the ones who had to pound their chests, Naruto said from where he leaned against the wall behind Ruko. That got him looks from both of them. Don't start. It was chest thumping. Could we perhaps just move along? Miranda asked. Yes, let's, he answered, pulling his hood back up over his head and drawing his guns. They all stepped out of cover and started shooting. While the Vorsha were momentarily confused by this, they moved out of the doorway and into the room proper, ducking under the cover of stacked boxes. He put away his guns and folded his hands together. Please don't make me scream on the floor, he silently prayed to whoever was listening before he reached out to his chakra and began channeling it. Kagabunshin no Jutsu, he said beneath all the sounds of the firefight. He did not fall down to the ground screaming. He did not fall down at all. Instead he heard the sounds of twin poofs. When he looked to his sides he saw him on each. They all shared the same grin, and if they could have laughed, they would have. You know the drill, he told the clones as he pulled out the Warhawks. They nodded and pulled out kunai. They stood up and rejoined the fight, the clones going to the end of either side to take out the fringe Vorsha. To their credit, neither Ruko nor Miranda batted an eye at the sight of the clones. They just kept shooting and throwing their biotics, sometimes even doing both. The Vorsha were surprised at what they saw. Not only did they have to deal with 2 biotics and a man with bullets that pierced their toughest armor, but now there 2 more of the man. That was uncalled for. Kill! Kill! One of their leaders screeched. Ruko silenced him with a biotic throw that took his head clean off. Take that, you fucker! She crowed in victory as the body fell to the ground. Krogan, 12 o'clock high! Shouted out Miranda in warning. The blonde saw the Krogan come stomping down the stairs on the other end of the room. I got him, the woman of the 4 shouted. You're too far away, the clone closest to her warned. Then I'll get in closer. Ruko, wait! But she was already moving forward, shooting at any Vorsha in her way. Follow her, the original Naruto told him. He nodded and went after her, taking out any Vorsha that was trying to shoot her. Everyone else, we mop up. You got it, Commander, Miranda said, still shooting the Vorsha. Come here, you fucker! They heard Ruko shout in challenge to the Krogan, still fighting her way to him. When she had a clear line of sight, her biotics flared and she charged at the Krogan, disappearing 1 second and reappearing as she slammed into him. The clone quickened his pace and his shooting. They were gaining ground, but there were still a lot more Vorsha. Hey boss, the other clone called out as he fired his guns. What? Shall we herd? To you, he said. He ducked down into cover and switched out the Churka clips from futon to Raidan. He had 5 clips inside his robe, 1 for each of the elements. Miranda, forced them to go to him. Someone else might have asked why, but she charged her biotics and threw it just off the side of the Vorsha flank. They weren't in any danger in being hit, but they weren't dumb enough to stay right there. They started moving leftwards. When Naruto opened fire and sent the farthest Vorsha down in a state of shock, they moved even faster. With every shot fired and every biotic thrown, they moved to the left, trying to get away from the danger. They weren't huddled or terrified as they moved. Rather, they hissed and screeched as they shot back as they were herded into the corner. But they didn't realize what had happened until Naruto shouted out, "Knock them down, Futon de Tapa." The clone roared as the jutsu roared out of his mouth. It hurtled down the length of the room and hit the cluster of Vorsha. It didn't make them scatter like the first shot of a pool game. Rather, they were sent as a group into the wall, the combined weight of them all crushing them to death. When the force was gone, they slumped to the ground, a pile of dead Vorsha. The original Naruto stared at the pile. "Thank Kami, that worked." He silently gave thanks. "Be glad that it did," Gyuki said to him. "What would have happened if it didn't?" "He would have been on the ground screaming, and we would be screaming along with him," Kurama answered. "Just be careful, Naruto," Sun told the Jinchuriki. "Don't push your luck until you know what exactly you can do now." "How am I supposed to know if I don't try?" "Gah, fuck!" roared Ruko, getting his attention. He turned his attention from the pile to the stairs and saw his sister clutching her side as she backed a step off of the Krogan. A growl escaped his lips and he charged towards them, his guns barking fire at the Krogan. The bullets hit him and lightning danced across the armor, making him roar in pain. 2 shots from the clone sent the Krogan down to his knees. Ruko clenched her teeth and swung her left arm upwards in a punch, the fist covered in biotics. It struck the Krogan right under the chin, making the head snap up with a sickening crunch. The Krogan fell backwards onto the steps, clearly dead. Ruko turned to look at them, her hand going back to her side and clearly angry. "Hey, I had him." "Of course you did," Miranda remarked dryly as she joined Naruto at the base of the staircase. "Ruko, don't go charging in like that," he told his sister. "You could have gotten yourself killed." "Hey, I know what I was doing and I know how to handle myself," she snapped at him. "Let's just move it." She started up the steps. Her brother dispelled the jutsu, making his clones disappear in plumes of smoke. He went up the steps, gradually overtaking her. Miranda followed behind. The first staircase soon led to another, and at the top of that were 2 doors, one on the left and on the right. The door on the left was opened and they could hear talking coming from it. There were many voices and one of them sounded human. "Please, I'm telling you the truth," the human voice begged. "I work for Morden at the clinic. I came here to help you. We have found our missing person," Komi said in a great dramatic voice. Naruto's team quickly walked to the door to see what lay beyond. They saw a small gang of Batarians surrounding the human in a medical uniform. One of the Batarians was holding the front of his medical uniform, and was shoving his face in his. "We know you're spreading the plague virus," he growled. "We saw the vials in your bag." "No! Those vials contain the cure." "Please, you have to believe me," he repeated himself. "They didn't. Maybe we should cut off your fingers. That should loosen your." "Okay, what's going on here?" Naruto asked loudly as he walked into the room. All eyes in there turned to him at the sound of his voice and saw the guns in his hands. The lead Batarian released his grip on Daniel only to pull out a gun on him while the others drew their guns on the enemy. "Don't move!" he ordered the hooded blonde. "One more step and we kill your friend." "He's not my friend," he replied blandly. "And if he was carrying the plague, why did he come into Vorsha territory? They haven't been affected, have they?" "He's right," another of the Batarians said in agreement. "It doesn't make any sense." The doubt seeped into the other Batarian's eyes. "If we release the prisoner, can we go?" the first one asked. "Of course," Naruto answered. "Let him go." All the guns were lowered but not put away. He stepped out of the way of the door. The Batarians took the silent hint and walked out of the room. "Human nobility," the leader remarked as they left. "I didn't know such a thing existed. You know, if I didn't have my doubts some days, I think I would have been offended," Naruto thought to himself as they vanished from sight. "Thank you," Daniel said to him. "I thought they were going to kill me." He shuddered at that thought. "Geez, what a wimp," Saiken muttered. "Not everyone can be cool under pressure," Isabu replied. "They can try." "Did Morden send you to find me?" Daniel asked Naruto. "Yes, he did." "You're needed back at the clinic. Too many people wanting help." "Not enough people giving help," he answered. "Why are you sounding like the Solarian?" Kurama asked him. "It just came out of my mouth." "Well, don't do it again." It was weird enough when he was doing it. "Yes, Mom," he silently replied. "Watch it." "Uh-huh." He wasn't afraid of the fox, and what he could dish out at him. There were more important things to worry about. Yeah, okay. I'll go right away, Daniel told him. Thanks again. Well, everything. Just get going, kid. He vanished quickly enough, taking his equipment with him. Pussy, Ruko said as his retreating backside vanished from sight. He could have at least tried to fight. No, he's a doctor. He was trying to help them. Foolish as that was, Miranda corrected her. She started to snarl something back when Naruto spoke. Why was it foolish, Miranda? He was a human trying to help Batarians. It would have been better if he had let them die. He stared at her for a long moment. Is the general hate for Batarians talking, or is it the fact that you are a part of the Akatsuki? He finally asked. The two things weren't separate, but he made it sound like they were. Does it matter? Humor me. We don't have time for that, Commander. We must get to the environmental center. She turned around and started heading for the door. Pretty much? Asked Ruko as she passed. She paused and looked at the blonde woman. I suppose you don't hate Batarians? No, I hate the fuckers. But at least I'm honest about it. You couldn't give a straight answer even if your life depended on it. Commander, could we please get moving? She asked Naruto, ignoring his sister again. She was right. They had to get going. But once they were out the door and through the next, they ran into Vorsha again, two to be precise. Yes, Ruko said with a bloodthirsty grin. Kill! One of the Vorsha screeched. Kill! He got a bullet to the face that killed him instantly. Wish granted, she told him. The other Vorsha raised his gun but wasn't fast enough. He died from a bullet fired by Naruto. The two Vorsha had been guarding a set of stairs going down. It was the only way out. At the bottom there was another door that led out into an open-aired area. To the left was another flight of stairs that led down, and to the right was a balcony overlooking the area. Across from that balcony was another balcony with Vorsha on it. Sniper! Shouted Miranda when she saw one of the Vorsha on the balcony was packing a rifle with a scope. The three of them dove for cover just as the first shot echoed into the air. Move up to the balcony. Go! Naruto told the other two. They moved around to the right, staying under cover as they went hurriedly for the balcony's side. Two more shots were fired as they moved up, forcing them to stay low. They reached the balcony's rail when they heard a whooshing sound and the floor behind them exploded. Shit, rockets! Ruko swore. They've got fucking rockets. How many? Her brother asked. Miranda stood up, took a few shots at them, and then knelt back down before she could be hit. I see 3 rockets along with that sniper, she answered. And there's Vorsha down below. If the balcony keeps us pinned here, the ones below could swarm us. Then let's take them out already, Ruko said. And how exactly do you plan on doing that? Fortunately, Naruto had an idea and he could make it happen. Give me some cover, he told them as he stepped back and made the hand seal, saying, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A clone appeared by his side. What are you planning on doing? Miranda asked while she and Ruko fired at the other balcony. It would too long to charge up the biotics to throw, so what would be the point? Yes, what are you planning on doing? Matatabi repeated. Something that I used a couple of times during the war, he answered. Oh no, please no. Please for the love of the old man tell me you're not going to do what I think you're going to do, Kurama practically begged him. I'm doing it, he answered. It didn't work half the time. Well, here's hoping that it'll work this time. What are you guys talking about? Shikaka demanded. He's going to use the human cannonball. Really? Asked Gyuki. Yes. There was a paused moment, and then the Hachibi started laughing his tails off. Ha 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 ha. How long has it been since we've seen that? Ha 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 ha. It's not funny, the Kyubi said, embarrassed. What's this all about? Matatabi asked. Yeah, I want to know too, Shikaku agreed. Just wait. You'll find out, Gyuki told them both before falling into laughter again. Both Naruto and his clone stood up. The original grabbed hold of the clone and with a great heave, threw him into the air and over to the other balcony. Both Miranda and Ruko saw the clone fly through the air and shared the same thought. You have got to be kidding me. The 7 Biju who had never seen the move had a more varied reaction, at first. Did I just see that happen? Isabu asked. Would you be referring to the fact that he just grabbed his clone and hurled him into the air? Koko asked him. I believe that is what he's talking about, Sun said. Yes, that's what I was talking about, the Sanbai agreed. I saw it too, Matatabi told them. Same here, Komiai added. I saw it, Shikaku declared. I did too, Saiken said. So we're in agreement that we all saw him grab his clone and throw him into air, Sun asked for confirmation. Yes, we did, the other 6 answered. Good. And then they all started laughing their tails off. Ha 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 ha. Gaki, I hate you so much right now, Kurama told his host. Duly noted, Naruto silently replied as he ducked down again. Okay, what exactly did that accomplish? Ruko asked him. Wait for it. Wait for what? The answer came in the sound of metal cutting through fur, skin, and flesh. It was faint over the sounds of the battlefield, but to him, it was audible enough. For that, he told her. Huh? What the fuck are you talking about? Miranda swung her attention over to him. Nice move there. She had gotten what he had done once she was past the initial surprise of the move. What are you going on about now, cheerleader? She sighed. He threw his clone that way to take care of the sniper and the rockets. Haven't you noticed that they stopped firing at us? She asked with disdain in her voice. She would have growled at that remark and replied, if it wasn't for the fact that she did notice it. She looked over the edge and saw the clone tearing through the Vorsha there. I'll be damned. Nice to see that it worked this time around, Naruto commented. That got both of their attentions. You mean it doesn't always? She asked him. Not if they saw it coming and could respond, which was half the time. Shouted Kurama at him before turning his attention to the other Biju. Stop laughing already. In any case, we still need to worry about what's down below, Miranda told them both. There are still Vorsha down below. Here, let me try taking them out, he said, standing back up. He tried to channel chakra into his eyes to activate the Rinnegan. What he ended up doing was collapsing to the floor in pain. The next few minutes were blurry and fuzzy mixed together, although he was certain he was screaming. When he finally stopped, he was flat on his back and panting. But inward he was calm. Okay, that didn't work. Yes, we noticed, the fox told him in annoyance. But they stopped laughing, so that's a bonus. Shut up, the other 8 of his tenants said. He got back to a sitting position and saw that Miranda and Ruko were standing up with no fear of being shot at. Are they all taken care of? No, we just felt like standing for the fuck of it, Ruko said sarcastically. Commander, could you please not try to see if you can use jutsu in the middle of a mission from now? Miranda asked him. I'll try. But he would make no promises. He leapt over the rail and landed squarely on his feet. Now that his attention was down here, he could see what the Vorsha had been protecting, the entrance to where they needed to go. Someone landed next to him. It was Ruko. Where's Miranda? Cheerleader decided to take the stairs, she said with a snort. Miranda soon joined them and they went through the dual doors leading into the environmental center. A pair of Vorsha were waiting on the other side with guns up and at the ready. A Krogan stood behind them. When he saw the humans come in, he gave a hard shove on the Vorsha. They responded eagerly and moved forward to attack. Ruko crushed the head on one of them with her biotics and Miranda shot the other one dead. The Krogan looked even more excited and was ready to charge. Naruto beat him to the punch, literally. He surged forward, knocked the enemy down with a hard right, and then promptly fired his guns into his face. It was a mess by the time he was done shooting. Let's move, he said when he was done, lowering his pistols. The environmental controls should be nearby, Miranda said as they took the left out of the corridor and headed for the nearby stairs. We need to insert the cure, then reactivate the fans. Shouldn't be too hard, Ruko declared. That sent the Biju into a chorus of groans. Why would she say that? Why? Saiken asked. Maybe she didn't know, Sun suggested. That doesn't excuse it. He's right, Shikaku agreed. Naruto, do something about it. Ruko, do you not know one of the fundamental rules? He asked his sister. When you say stuff like that, you've just made it worse. She gave him a look of disbelief as they kept going up. You must be joking. No, I'm not. Every time I had been on a mission that seemed easy, and someone said something like those words, it just got worse. Trust me. Things are not going to be easy now. They soon reached the top of the stairs and the door that was there. When it opened for them, a Vorsha came running at them. But instead of trying to attack, it came to a stop in front of them. Come here, he said. We shut down machines, break fans. Why? Naruto asked him as he stepped forward into the room. Everyone choke and die. Then they make us strong. They? Who are they? Who are you talking about? The tribe? He asked, but the Vorsha didn't seem to hear him. They want plague. You work for Doctor, turn on machines, and put cure in air. We kill you first. He reached for the gun at his side, but what he got were futon bullets through his chest, carving out a hole that was see-through. I really don't think so, the hooded blonde replied. Kill! 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 One of the other Vorsha screeched. With pleasure, Ruko replied, throwing her red biotics at the Vorsha in question. It sent him flying but left her wide open. The Vorsha were many things but unable to take care of an advantage was not one of them. The remaining Vorsha turned their guns onto her. "Oh shit," she said before jumping behind one of the columns to her left. "Are you simply incapable of thinking something through?" Miranda demanded as she and Naruto also went for cover. "Well, what the fuck was going to be your brilliant plan?" she demanded. She didn't get an answer, but she wasn't really looking for one. "They really don't like each other," Isabu remarked. "Thank you, Captain Obvious," Saiken said to him. "But you do know what they say," Shikaka said with a grin. "Opposites attract." Naruto ignored what the Tanuki was saying, keeping his attention on the fight. There were only a few Vorsha there. "Keep them pinned, I'll finish them off," he told his teammates. "No way, I can handle this," Ruko told as she lowered her gun. "Ruko," he started. But it was too late. She drew back her arm and readied her red biotics. "Chew on this, fuckfaces!" she crowed as she threw the biotics at the Vorsha on her side of the room. But that left her arm open for the other Vorsha to take a shot, and he did. "Gah, fuck!" she hissed as a bullet grazed her arm. She pulled back behind the column, her hand gripping the arm with blood already oozing in between. "Ruko, you good?" asked her brother. "Yeah, I'm fine. Stay there. Where the fuck else am I going to go?" He turned his attention to the remaining Vorsha hiding behind a column and not wanting to move. "Miranda, drag him out," he ordered. Aye, she replied, charging up her biotics and throwing a black hole in the air, right next to where the Vorsha had been hiding. It quickly came out of hiding but did not make it to orbiting the black hole alive. "Commander, I've scanned the room," Edei said to Naruto through the comm. "The central control system is in an alcove in the center of the back wall. You can inject the cure and reinitialize the systems there." "I see it." It was right where she said it was. It was kinda obvious too. "Miranda, put some Medigel on Ruko." "Sir, we can't waste it," she said in slight protest. "Do it." "Yeah, do it, cheerleader," Ruko told her with a smug smirk. She glared at the tattooed blonde but moved towards her anyway. While that was being taken care of, Naruto moved forward to the alcove Edei told him about. There were a lot of glowing orange holograms standing there in front of him, but there was an injection panel right near the bottom. He took out the cure and inserted it there. The lights started getting brighter and moving around when he did that. Then it all came to a stop, showing him images of red fans. "Did it happen?" he asked aloud, unsure if it did. "Yes, it did," Miranda answered as she and Ruko joined him. The bleeding on Ruko's arm had stopped, and she was able to move it normally. "Now we just need to reactivate the fans." "Well, how hard is that, Umpulf?" she started to say, only to get her mouth covered by Naruto. "We already had this conversation," he told her. "I think it might be too late," Miranda said conversationally even as she raised her gun. Both blondes turned to see what she saw and saw more Vorsha coming at them. If it had been some other time, Naruto might have said, "For the love of Kami," and started asking how many Vorsha were there. But instead he took his hand of Ruko's mouth and started shooting the Vorsha. Ruko was much more vocal, though. "Come here, you fuckers!" she shouted at the Vorsha. "Ruko, control yourself," Miranda told her. "Shove it!" she shouted back. She was enjoying herself, and she would be damned if some cheerleader was going to restrict her fun. "Edei, where are the fans?" Naruto asked as he shot a hole through one Vorsha's head. "It is not the fans you should be concerned about, but their controls." "I've located those," she told him through the comm. "I've located two, one on either side of the room you are in now." "Of course it is," Gyurki remarked drily. "Nice to see things haven't changed in the years we've been away." "Are you talking about the 2,000-year-long nap or the two?" Isabu asked. "Does it matter?" "Good point," he conceded. "We got two places to be in," Naruto told Miranda and Ruko as the last Vorsha fell. "We'll take of one. Who will take care of the other?" Miranda asked. "Do you have to ask?" "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," she stared at the clones. "Right, forget I asked. You three take the left." "We'll take the right," he ordered the clones. They nodded and left without another word. His team took the stairs leading downward to the fan controls. They saw the door just before it opened. Vorsha came out with one packing a flamethrower leading the charge. "Burn! Kill! Burn!" it screeched at them. Naruto changed one of the clips into a Swait unclip and fired one bullet from that into the flamethrower, extinguishing the tongue of fire. With the other gun, he fired that into the fuel canister. It caused the whole thing to explode, taking the Vorsha carrying it and the ones alongside him. "Nice shot," Shikaka said to him. "Thank you." He moved forward to the door, stepping over the burnt carcasses. Things were much easier after that. Once through the door, they saw the controls for the fan. Miranda took it from there and activated the fans. 3 of the 6 red fan holograms turned green once she was done. "This fan is powering up," she declared. "But the other one still needs to activate." "How we doing?" asked Naruto of his clones through the comm. We're inside the room and looking at the controls, one of them answered. Why can't there just be a simple on-off button? Where would the fun be in that? Just listen to what I have to tell you guys, the original told them, having watched Miranda turn on the first fan. He quickly relayed what he had seen to them. Got it, the clone replied. A couple of seconds before it spoke again. Okay, the fan is up and running. Get rid of yourselves. He turned his attention away from the comm. The other fan is up and running. Morden should be pleased, Miranda remarked. They could already hear the fans going outside the room. Let's head back. As he turned for the door, he went back to the comm, calling the other team. Jacob, we're coming back. Was there any trouble? None on this end, Commander, he replied through the comm. How about you? Plenty of trouble, but we got the cure in and distributed. The people infected with the plague are going to get better now. Tell the doctor that we're coming in. You got it. Environmental systems engaged, Morden said as Naruto, Miranda, and Ruko walked into the clinic. Airborne viral levels dropping. Patients improving. Vorsha retreating. He turned to look at them. Well done, Commander. Thank you, and thank you from me, as well, Daniel said from where he stood. Those Batarians would have killed me. He gave an awkward laugh as he rubbed his forehead. For a second there, I thought you were going to shoot them even after they let me go. Only if they had drawn first, the hooded blonde told him. Merciful of you, Morden remarked. Risky. Would have killed them myself. Same here, Shikaku agreed. You're bloodthirsty, Matatabi told the Tanuki. So, meanwhile, the assistant looked at the Solarian with horrified eyes. Professor? How can you say that? He asked. You're a doctor. You believe in helping people. Lots of ways to help people. Sometimes heal patients. Sometimes execute dangerous people. Either way helps. You forgot one, Naruto said quietly. Did I? Yeah, putting two heavily injured people out of their misery, he answered. He had seen that happen a lot. Sakura had always cried afterwards. Yes. Good point. Professor, said a horrified Daniel. Morden turned to him. Go check on patients. Lots of work to do. Think about what I said, he instructed him. He left, but he wasn't happy about it. Good kid. Bit naive. He'll learn. Letting him take over clinic. Should be able to handle it now that Vorsha are gone. It wasn't just the Vorsha, Naruto told him. There were Blood Pack Krogan and an Einherjar with them. Blood Pack? Makes sense. Would want more territory. Possible conclusion, Vorsha found solution and senior members allowed it. So could that what they meant by they? Coco asked. That's one of the many questions we've got going on here, Komiai replied. So, Dr. Morden, now that the cure is taking care of the plague, are you still interested in our offer? Miranda asked him. Yes, he answered. Said before, dream come true. Unexpected to be working with Akatsuki. Many surprises. Just need to finish up here at the clinic. Won't take long. Meet you at your ship. Looking forward to it. Say that after you've worked with me, Naruto told him. We'll see you on the ship. Location, the Normandy. Naruto was out of his armor and into his hoodie once he was on board. He waited for Morden in the meeting room. He would have had Ruko in there with him, but she had disappeared into the bowels of the ship again. The door to the room opened, letting Jacob and Morden walk in. Welcome to the Normandy, Professor, Jacob told the Solarian. It's an honor to have you on board. Yes. Very exciting. Akatsuki working with aliens. Unexpected. Elusive man branching out, maybe? Not so human-centric? He asked as he went up to the table. I doubt it, Naruto replied. Understandable. As you said, couldn't go to Alliance. Must ask though. Why not reveal yourself to Galaxy again? You want the truth? Always preferable. The elusive man blackmailed me into helping fight the tribe in this war of theirs. He thinks that they are somehow helping human colonies in the Terminus system just vanish. Jacob added on to that. There's virtually no evidence that anything unusual happened at all, except that every man, woman, and child is gone. Gas, maybe? Morden suggested. No. Spreads too slow. Airborne virus? No. Slower then. That's not why we brought you on board, Doctor, Naruto told him before he could get going. He stopped and considered the blonde. Yes. Of course. Was brought on board to study your chakra and help you get it back. Blocked how exactly? The tribe placed a series of inhibitors on all of my tenketsu. He paused. You know what that means, right? Yes. Focal point in map of chakra network. About 361 of them. That's right. When my chakra is not being used, they do nothing. But if I try to use it, they send me an overload of pain. It's enough to make me collapse to the ground screaming, blocking use by pain. Tries to make the user not use chakra anymore in fear of. Classic, if not a bit simple, he commented. So, we'll need to figure out a way to get inhibitors out. Take it that surgery isn't an option? I already asked that question. They told me that the prospects of me living weren't good. But there's also been a development. You remember Ruko? Yes. Your clone. Very hard to forget. Morden saw the look of surprise on Jacob's face and the one of question on Naruto's. Wasn't hard. Facial structure, eyes, and hair color are exactly the same. No historical records tell of you having any full-blooded siblings. Meant that she was created in this era. Had to guess that she was created to replace you. Not exactly. He placed his hand under his chin, beginning to think about what that meant for what he had to do. Could be useful in work. If clone should have same chakra network. Would help in figuring out how to break inhibitors. She's doesn't have chakra, she's a biotic. But before we came to Omega, she was able to break 81 of the inhibitors with a single biotic punch. That got his attention. Outcome? I've gotten some control of my chakra back, some jutsu too. How much? I don't really know. Interesting. Very interesting. He looked at Naruto. We'll need samples from you and clone, sister, he said back. She's my sister. Very well, we'll need samples from you and your sister. We'll also need to map you for study. Going to need a lab. There is a fully equipped lab on the combat deck, Professor Solis, Edi announced, making her presences known. If you find anything lacking, please place a requisition order. He looked around, trying to find the voice. Who's that? Pilot? No. Synthesized voice. Simulated emotional inflections. Could it be, no? Maybe. He looked at Jacob and Naruto. Have to ask. Is that an AI? We call her Edi, Naruto said in way of answer. An AI on board? Non-human crew members? Akatsuki must be more desperate than I thought. They brought me on board, in spite of our past history. Technically speaking, different Akatsuki. Not same as one you fought against. But not here to discuss fine points. Here to study blocking of chakra. We'll need samples. Have to map out network. Which way to lab? Jacob, follow me, Professor, Jacob said as he walked out of the room. The Solarian followed him out. He found himself on the ship again, but now there was a landmass coming into sight. Land ho! A faint voice echoed in the air. Shadow people began moving around rapidly on the deck. Headbands shined brightly in the dream, letting him know where they were from. The armor of samurai had turned dark and menacing, making them seem more like monsters than people. They were all gathering on the deck, waiting for the battle that was to come. Sakura was standing where he had seen her. She wore no armor, but Naruto knew that she was ready for battle. Shikamaru walked up beside her with a spyglass in hand. They were expecting us, he remarked as he looked through the glass. What does it look like? Sakura asked him. They've reinforced the beach and the city. If we want to take the city to secure the area, it's going to be a fight. It won't be. He looked at her, lowering the spyglass. Sakura, he began. Don't, Shikamaru, just don't. They are going to pay. Things fell into silence as the land grew closer and closer to them all. It was a steady action that Naruto had a suspicion was happening a lot faster than it would have in real life. But what was he going to do about? It wasn't like he could tell the shadow people what he was seeing. They could even see him, but as the coast got closer and closer, he could see the beach, how heavily reinforced it was. The number of Einherjars seemed to be endless from where he stood, and the rest were Cliff warriors, armed to the teeth and ready for a fight. There were several lines of defense on that beach. The most recent was just a simple line of sharpened wooden spikes. That by itself didn't give Naruto cause to worry. It was the lines after it, as they simple became more and more wall-like, with the farthest one back actually being a wall made of wood. The beach and the way to the city were on a slope that rose steadily as it went up, which would give the defenders a better advantage, against the samurai at least. When they were close enough to the beach, Sakura leapt over the side and landed on the waves. There were some shouts of surprise, but they became distant and distort as Naruto followed her without actually moving. It was like he was still and everything else was moving. She walked up from the sea onto the beach and towards the first line. She came to a stop and looked at the army there. I am Sakura Haruno, she said, a loud, clear voice. I have only one demand: give me the people responsible for the murder of the Sannin, and I will accept your surrender. And what if we don't give them to you? Someone shouted down to her. The army that stood before her was just a horde of shadows. Naruto had to concentrate to make out where one ended and the next began. Then I will kill all of you until you give me what I want. Laughter rang out through the defenses. Go back to where you came from, woman. You won't get what you've come for and you won't kill us. You shinobi are weak. Pathetic. We all heard the stories. Killing them was a mercy so they would not see how weak they were. The ship reached the shore and the small army aboard began to disembark. You were warned, Sakura said to the defenders. She lifted up a leg and then slammed it down. The earth rumbled and then split open right at the first line. The entire row of stake plus the Hliff warriors and the Einherjar fell into it without another word said. The laughter died quickly then. She took a giant leap into the air and landed right in the second line, causing a crater as she landed. While the rest of the invasion force made their way towards her, she started slaughtering everyone in her way. When she was done, she would go to the next line of defense. Naruto could only watch as Sakura continued her rampage through the enemy lines while the rest of the invasion cleaned up. Screams and shouts of pain and horror mixed the air with cries of "Kill her! Kill her!" But there was no killing her. It seemed like no one could even touch her. She dealt no mercy to her enemy, only savagery and death. He watched all of this, heard all of this, and could only think to himself, that's why he was praying to her. Commander, Joker called out through the intercom, waking him up instantly. He sat up on the bed, taking a deep breath from that nightmare he had just seen, and it was a nightmare. The Sakura he knew would never have done something like that. What is it, Joker? There's a guy standing out on the dock. He says that he's here to talk you. Anyone familiar? He asked as he got out of the bed. Nope, his pilot answered. But he's armored and he's packing. You might want to do the same. As the intercom closed, he fished out the armor from the closet. I try and take one nap and already we've got more problems, he grumbled to himself. Welcome to life, Gaki, Kurama told him. Shut up, he said back as he got the armor on and went for the elevator. Codex entry, Humanity and the Systems Alliance Massacre of Unreiki. Easily one of the most atrocious acts to have occurred in the history of the galaxy. The Unreikyo massacre occurred when 50 Midgardian warriors, of which half were Einherjar, butchered the third-generation Sannin. Not stopping at killing them, they also desecrated the bodies by tearing them apart and scattering them throughout the area. In the years leading up to the War of Three Flags, when hostilities and tensions were rising between the elemental countries, the frontier, and Midgard, the Shinobi Alliance reactivated the Sannin, giving the titles of Sage to Mikoto Uchiha, Yamato Karasuhibi, and Nagato Uzumaki. But when war finally broke out, they became a ceremonial team, much like the Chosen Men. As the war went on, the theater was quickly established. Midgardian warriors were leading raids into the frontier while fighting them out at sea. Meanwhile, the frontier had blockaded the elemental countries and was trying to invade but kept getting pushed back. The coastline of the elemental countries had become dangerous due to the frontier ships, but inland was safe. The Sannin wanted to be a part of the war and continually lobbied the Shinobi Alliance for such an order. It was eventually agreed that they would be able to join once they had trained to a level that they found satisfactory. Knowing that having them train in areas known to the public would likely have the tales spread to the enemy, it was decided that they would train in Unreikyo, deep in the land of lightning. What happened next, no one really knows how it happened. One theory speculates that Midgardian raiders had attacked the northern blockade and kept the appearance so to spy on both enemies, letting their command know about the Sannin arriving at Unreikyo when they found out. Another speculates that a Midgard spy was able to get deep in country and found out about the Sannin. A third states that it was sheer coincidence of a wrecked Midgardian crew that found them. This one isn't fully accepted as Einherjar were not part of Midgardian crews at that time. Regardless of how the information was discovered, Midgard acted on it. A team was able to sneak past the frontier blockade, or was allowed past according to some theories, land in the land of lightning, and then proceeded to make their way to Unreikyo, reaching it on April 28th. The Sannin had gone to Unreikyo with a senior shinobi to teach them and a guard of both shinobi and samurai. However, they were restless and wished to train against one another, having been forbidden to do so. They snuck out at night to train, out of sight of their guards. That was how the group from Midgard found them. By the time their guard and teacher had heard the sounds of battle and reached the battlefield, it was too late. Yamato was already dead, and the other two Sannin had been trapped in a runic seal cage. They could only watch as the Midgardians attacked them. The Toad, Snake, and Slug bosses had been summoned before Yamato's death, but the ambushers had brought one of the Verclan with them, Bloodhand, so they were pinned by the Goat Boss, leaving their summoners to deal with the warriors while the Einherjar aided the Goat Boss. Mikoto Uchiha and Nagato Uzumaki were killed and the bosses that had been summoned on their side fell too. Their mission completed, the seal cage collapsed, and then the Einherjar turned their weapons on the shinobi who stood there and watched, killing them too. When the reinforcements that had been requested from Kumogakure had reached Onreikyo, the only way they knew there had been a massacre was because the heads of the Sannin mounted on stakes. For 15 years, those were the only parts they knew belonged to whom. The ambushes were nowhere in sight. The massacre acted as the catalyst for the war's end. The Shinobi Alliance, having long been on the defensive, changed their strategy seemingly overnight. Their first move was to attack the frontier blockade, crippling them to an extent that they were forced to leave, see Operation Thunderwave. Then they planned dual invasions, one of the frontier and one of Midgard. While the Shinobi invasion of the frontier, more popularly known as Sasuke's March, is well known, the Midgard invasion, also known as Sakura's Rampage, was much more infamous. The reason for its infamy was because of Sakura Haruno, Mikoto's mother. Wherever she went during the invasion, she would demand the people responsible for the massacre. Whether they refused or told her that they were not there, she would not spare them from her rage and vengeance. While having been initially celebrated as heroes for their actions, the 50 members of the massacre quickly became derided during the course of the invasion, being called cowards for refusing to go out and meet Sakura in combat, and then murderers when it was revealed that the Sannin had not yet reached what was considered by Midgard as the age of maturity, and therefore were children. When the war ended, they were cast out of Midgardian society. They would have gone north if they had not fled, becoming outcasts. See The Disgraced. Chapter 37. There they are. Location: the Normandy. Alright, who is it? Naruto asked as he stood behind Joker's seat, fully armored and robed. Like I said before, no one we know, his pilot replied. Both were looking at a video feed from a camera in the ship's exterior hull. It was pointing at the dock and at the guy standing in front of the ship with crossed arms. Whoever he is certainly not a looker. There was some obvious scarring on his face, and his right eye was a different color than his left. But both were hard and cold, something that spoke of his experience. Yeah, but his armor and weapons aren't things to be sneezed at, Joker remarked. The armor was custom-made, but not by any craftsman. Rather, it looked to be cobbled together from things he had found. It had scarring and pieces were missing. But that all spoke to how tough and how good the guy seemed to be. As he looked at the man, Naruto saw something that caught his attention. Wait, is there any way to zoom in on this thing? You have to ask? Just get in close to his neck. The camera zoomed into the neck, allowing them to see the tattoo on said neck fully. What does that look like to you? A small circle inside an oblong one? Asked Joker with humor. Try to be serious about this, Joker. Hey, if I don't live up to my name, I have it on very good authority that the powers that be and the powers that come afterwards are going to be very upset. The powers that come afterwards? Repeated Sun. Anyone got a clue about what the hell that means? He's just talking about the afterlife, Matatabi told him. Oh yeah, Komi said, realizing the fact. Duh, Shikaka said with a snort. Talk about the obvious, Kokoro stated. Really, Son, you should have seen that. I know that he was talking about the afterlife, the Yambi said in an insulted voice. I am not an idiot. I was talking about who runs the afterlife. How does Joker know them? How does he even know they are who they claim they are? Ooh, that's actually a good point, Gyuki remarked. Joker, Naruto said to his pilot, ignoring his joke and his tenant's conversation. I miss these guys? He asked himself. Yes, you did, and you would miss us again if we went silent once more, Kurama told him with a smug satisfaction. Alright, being completely serious here, Joker said to him. I can tell that's a blue sun tattoo, so what does that mean? They heard about you unleashing purgatory and have come to collect? As a matter of fact, it is not, Edi announced. To the pilot's left, her blue orb appeared out of nowhere. Whoa! Said both Joker and Naruto at the sight of her. Would you give a little warning when you do something like that? Joker protested. The AI ignored him. The man standing outside is Zaid Masani. He has been hired by the Akatsuki to join Commander Uzumaki on his mission. Are you kidding me? Naruto asked. I do not kid. She really doesn't, Joker added. The blonde rolled his eyes. I guess that means I have to go talk to him, doesn't it? Your choice, his pilot told him. Right, he said sarcastically, turning around. Get the team to follow me when they get here. You got it. You want the Solarian too? No, he's having fun in the lab. Let him stay there for now. And actually, Quan Misley stays behind too. Have her keep an eye out on him. Why? It's not like he's going to go anywhere. Just tell her that, Joker. He knew that tone in the blonde's voice. He had it a lot when it came to Quan Misley recently. Alright, you got it, Commander. Thank you. He walked towards the ship's hatch. He waited as it went through all the things it had to do before the outer hatch opened. It spoke to how well the ship had made that it took less time to do than the first Normandy. He took the time to attach the helmet piece and let it cover his head before pulling up the hood. When the outer hatch opened and he stepped back out onto Omega, he saw the guy standing right where he was on the camera. "About time you got out here. You Naruto Uzumaki?" He growled out in a voice that sounded like he was half angry. But there was also the faintest of accents there, making him sound like he was from the island kingdoms originally. "Yeah, that's me." "So you're Zaid Masani? You heard of me. Only just now," he said bluntly. "What do you want?" "The Akatsuki hired me to help you hunt the tribe down." That was the kind of thing he did, and he was good at it. "Why should I let you on my team?" That took him a little bit by surprise, but he managed to keep it off his face and body. Most people didn't ask that kind of question of him. They just paid him for the job they hired him to do. "You got your hearing straight, kid? The Akatsuki hired me to help you. That means I'm helping you. First off, my hearing's fine. Second, the Akatsuki might have hired you, but I didn't, and I decide who works with me. You want to be on my team? You tell me why I should let that be. I know my way through a fight. So does everyone on my team. Seriously, kid? Why are you arguing about this? I'm not a kid." He barked out a laugh at that. "You sure as hell look like one, and the way you're arguing certainly proves it." "I'm not a kid," he repeated himself, his voice staying constant. "And if you know me, you should know what my beef is with the Akatsuki." "Well, it's a good thing I don't know you then." And quite frankly, he didn't give a damn. "I was hired to do a job. I'm going to the job whether you like it or not. Besides, I've got information on a couple of people you'd want for your team." "Who?" he asked. Behind him, the hatch opened and out stepped the rest of his team. A couple of vigilantes who managed to make life on Omega hell enough for the mercs who lived to band together to try and kill them, Zaid told him. "That alone should tell you how much you will want them on your team." "Who's after them?" Miranda asked as she came up beside her leader. He turned his attention over to her. "The Blue Suns, Eclipse, the Ronin, and the Blood Pack. See what I'm getting at here, girlie?" She nodded, ignoring his insulting tone, and looked at Naruto. "Commander, if those mercenary groups are getting together, then we must ensure the safety of these vigilantes. They could be very beneficial to the mission. They're currently pinned down in one of the districts, if you're interested," Zaid said conversationally. "They're giving the mercs a hard enough of a time that they've stooped to recruiting anyone who seems to have the faintest idea of how to hold a gun to take him out." "You need anything else to convince you?" he asked Naruto. He didn't reply right away, instead settling for staring straight at him. Of course, all the merc could see was the snarling fox emblazoned on the helmet. "What are the names of the vigilantes?" he asked, finally speaking. "Why should it matter? I'd like to know who's getting on my team." Fair enough. There are 3 of them, Archangel, Sword Saint, and Thor." He heard the first name before, from the elusive man in their first meeting. "Where are these mercs recruiting from?" "The only recognizable joint in this place," he said like it was obvious. Fortunately, the armored blonde knew what he was talking about. "All right, we'll go to Afterlife." He walked past the merc, heading towards the club. "Hang on, did the Akatsuki tell you about my deal?" the merc asked, jogging up to his side. "No. When I want to know about it, I'll ask. In the meantime, you still have to earn my trust." "Fair enough," he conceded, backing off from him and falling into the team. "Miranda, walk with me," Naruto ordered the woman. She walked up beside him. "Commander?" she asked. "Tell me about the elusive man." If she was a normal human, she might have been caught off guard by that order. But she was not. In fact, she had been expecting it for some time. "I was beginning to wonder if he'd ever get around to it," she thought to herself. "There's not much I can tell you that you already know. Even I don't have access to most of his background," she told him. "And you've seen more of him than most ever do. It's rare for him to become directly involved in missions, but you're something special. Maybe he just wanted to make sure I didn't blow you all to hell once I found out who you were," he said shortly. "Commander, you couldn't have done that, not with your chakra being blocked." "Trust me, I would have found a way." His control over his chakra had been pathetic when he was a kid, and yet he was still able to pull pranks across the village. And besides, his method of meeting me would have gotten him killed if I could have touched him. She wasn't worried about his threat because no one could see the elusive man in person, much less touch him. "Why would you say that?" He decided to show me an image of Toby, just to see how I would react. If it was some other time and she wasn't so good at hiding her expression when she could, she might have winced at those words. That was probably not the best thing he could have done, she conceded. "You think?" he asked sarcastically as they made the turn. "Still, whatever people might think about him, I can assure you that he's got humanity's best interests at heart. That includes you and me. And what makes you think that? I didn't get to where I am now without knowing how to gauge people's motives and ambitions. Even from brief encounters, she told him confidently. She's confident, Gyurki remarked. I'd say cocky, Saiken countered. Same here, Matatabi agreed. We can turn that against her. He's no saint, and he'd be the first to admit it, Miranda continued. But he's committed. Humanity couldn't have a better advocate. It's not a question of whether or not he's an advocate, he replied. It's a question of whether or not he's the advocate we need. He is. I'm sure of it, she told him as afterlife came into sight. There was no doubt in the conviction her voice held. Gaki, you're not going to change her mind about him anytime soon, Kurama told him. You might want to consider changing the subject. That was a good idea. And he knew what to change it to. Tell me about yourself, he told her. Again, she wasn't surprised. I was wondering when you'd ask that question. Well, you should probably know that I've had extensive genetic modification. Not my decision, but I make the most of it. She made it sound like he knew what she was talking about. He didn't. What do you mean by genetic modification? My very DNA had been changed before I came into this universe. It's one of the reasons the elusive man handpicked me. I'm very good at just about anything I choose to do. Really? He asked. They walked through the door to afterlife with no one saying a word in protest. No one that mattered, that is. Yes. Physically, I am superior in many ways. I heal quickly and I'll likely live half again as long as the average human. So can I. Still not impressed, he told her. There was the slightest of frowns on her face at those words. My biotics are also very advanced, for a human. Add to that some of the best training and education money can buy and, well, it's pretty impressive, really. You know what you've just told me about yourself? What? Nothing, he answered as they walked into afterlife proper. Zaid, where the mercs at? He asked, ignoring Miranda's slightly annoyed expression. Follow me, Zaid said, taking the lead. He cut through the crowd to the private suite where the recruiting was taking place. There was a blue sun guard standing outside the suite. There you go. You go take care of it. I'll hang back. The hooded blonde barely acknowledged him as he stepped back into the crowd of the club. He walked right up to the guard. I heard you're recruiting. The guard stared back at him, taking in all his armor and robe. He was intimidating to say the least. Why don't you step inside? He walked past the guard into the suite as his team followed. Once the door was opened, they saw another Blue Sun Batarian working a console. Standing in front of him was another mercenary. You'll get paid when the job's done, just like everyone else, the Batarian told the merc. HGNH, the merc grunted as he chewed on something that was big enough for him to not speak properly. He turned around and walked out of the suite. Who's next? The Batarian asked, sounding thoroughly bored. Naruto and his team stepped up, letting him get a good eyeful of them. You look like you could do some damage. Looking for a good fight? Depends on what the fight is and how much you're paying, Naruto asked back. Standard fee is 500 credits each, he told them, ignoring the first part of the question. You get paid when the job's done. If you die, your friends don't collect your share. You'll need your own weapons and armor. He gave them an eyeful. Looks like you've got that covered. And no, this does not make you a member of the Blue Suns, Eclipse, the Ronin, or the Blood Pack. You are a freelancer. Period. Any questions? He asked. Only the important one. Where do we go? Just head over to the transport depot outside the club, he answered. One of our boys will take you from there. He went back down to his console. Send in the next one. As they turned to leave, the door opened and another human came walking in with a swagger. Oh, for the love of Kami, tell me I'm seeing things. Shikaku groaned. I would like to say that you were or make a bad joke about it, but you're not and I won't, Sun said to him. A kid, it's a Kami-forsaken kid. Matatabi shouted. Naruto, you have to do something about it. Isabu told him. Why? He asked back. What do you mean, why? He's old enough. He's not a shinobi. You can see that. Hey, is this where I sign up? The kid asked, his voice full of cockiness. At his side was a gun. He kept stroking it with his fingers, like he was trying to remind himself that it was there. That's why, Kurama said. Damn it, you're right, he thought before turning around. Kid, how old are you? He asked. I'm old enough. The kid snapped back. The Blue Sun looked up and stared at him. He saw the stare and looked back at Naruto. I grew up on Omega. I know how to use a gun, he declared. So do the people you want to kill, Jacob told him bluntly. I can handle myself. He pulled the gun out and held it for all to see. Besides, I just paid 50 credits on this pistol and I won. Naruto moved before he could finish, knocking the gun out of his hand with a swipe, sending him down to the ground with a kick, and holding him there with a kunai to his eye. "This was me holding back, way back," he told the kid. "They won't be. You're out of your league. Get lost." He stood up and the kid got up as well. "What do? I'm going to count to 3. You'd better be gone by then or you won't like what comes next." "Whoo, 1. He took off like a bat out of hell. "Kid moves fast," Ruko commented with an amused grin. "Are you done?" the Blue Sun asked them. "Yeah," Naruto replied. "Good. Get out of here." He left the room, setting his mind to the mission. Time to play the game. If it hadn't been for the extra long shuttle, they might have had to take more than one trip to reach the area of battle. As it settled onto the ground, the doors opened. The Blue Sun driver stayed in his seat while they climbed out. Another Batarian met them standing in front of a flight of stairs. "It's about time they sent me someone who looks like they can actually fight," he said to them as he looked them over. "They tell you what we're up against?" "No, they just sent us down here so they could get their kicks watching us die in a horrific manner," Ruko said with enough sarcasm to drop a horse from where she stood behind Naruto. The others had formed into a loose group behind him. He eyed her for a long moment before turning his attention back to Naruto. "She's got a mouth on her. I'd like to see what else she could do with it, and her body." "You sick?" She started forward, only to have her brother's arm block her way. "Hey, ease off, Ruko," he told her. "But, ease off." She growled, but the arm stayed in her path. So she did as she was told. "You know how to handle your women, impressive," the Batarian told him. "What are we up against?" he asked while he lowered the arm. "Archangel and his friends are holed up in a building at the end of the boulevard over there." He gestured vaguely behind his back. "They've got a superior position, and the only way in is over a very exposed bridge. It's a killing ground. But Archangel's getting tired, making mistakes. He's letting more and more get through, making his friends deal with them and getting them tired too. We'll have them soon enough. There's a plan? A small team is waiting to infiltrate their hideout, but we need to draw Archangel's fire so they can move in." "Where do we come in?" Miranda asked him. "You'll be on a distraction team. Head straight over the bridge and keep Archangel busy so the infiltration team can sneak in behind him." "That's goddamn suicide," Zaid spoke out, even though he kept himself hidden from the Batarian. "Pretty much," he said with a shrug of his shoulder. "But you lot look like you can handle it. Head up to the boulevard and head to the 3rd barricade. Talk to Sergeant Kathka. He'll tell you when to go in. Watch yourself on the boulevard. Archangel's killed dozens out there already." "All right," Naruto said shortly, walking past him with his team following behind. When they reached the top of the stairs, he turned around, pulled a gun out, and shot the Batarian in the legs, making him fall and scream in pain. "The next time you ever talk or look at my sister like that, I will rip out your eyes with my hands." The Batarian in the shuttle stood up, but the gun turned to him. "Sit down," the armored blonde ordered, lying a little of his intent to kill along the sight line. The Batarian did as he was ordered. "Good. Now go back up there and do your job." The shuttle doors closed, and the craft took off. He watched it vanish from sight before sheathing the gun and kept on walking. "Didn't think you had the balls," Ruko told him. "It's not about having balls," he replied. "It's about having patience and timing, which is ironic coming from you and your track record, Mr. Charge Straight In," Kurama said with dry amusement. He ignored the fox and continued with his lecture. "If I had let you start a fight with him, or did it myself, we would have gotten into trouble that we didn't need at that point. But you still shot him. He was the doorman. Pick a fight in front of the doorman or with the doorman, he's not going to let you in. Once you get past him, you're fine. It also showed that we are dangerous and will not be pushed around." "How the hell would you know that?" Zaid asked him. "You're the only one who shot him. You've been around, Zaid. I can see that. What do you assume when the leader of a group is dangerous? That the rest of the group is as well," he answered promptly. Then he realized what he was talking about. "Oh, I get it. Nice job there, kid." "I'm not a kid, Commander. I've scanned the area, but I am unable to plot any other way to the group." EDI spoke through the comm. He and his team didn't break stride as they turned a corner. They caught a brief glimpse of Omega in all its infamy before going through a door. "Looks like we'll be going in with the mercs," Jacob remarked. "Getting in will be easy, getting out will be a bitch," Zaid told him. "He's right," Miranda agreed. "We need to find a way to even the odds. Eclipse is trying to utilize heavy mechs and gunships as they possess considerable firepower," EDI informed them. "Weakening them before leaving will improve your chances." "Noted," Naruto said. He looked over at Miranda. "Take care of it." "You got it, Commander," she replied. "I'll join you." "You need a lookout," Jacob told her. She nodded once in acknowledgement. They approached a second door and walked through it. The first thing they heard was the sound of gunfire echoing over their heads. The second thing that they noticed was the freelancers just sitting around in a room half listening to a Solarian speak. They ignored the Solarian, following the gunfire until it was all but ringing in their ears. They found the gunfire the loudest in an open area filled with barricades. Once they were there, the gunfire came from the left instead of just over their heads. Found the barricades, Ruko declared. Thank you for the observation, Naruto said as he watched a Vorsha get shot and fall from the nearest barricade. No real loss there, Zaid stated, staring down at the dead body. Split up and look around. Keep your heads low so you don't get shot beforehand. Anything we're looking for in particular? Jacob asked him. You and Miranda are looking for the mechs and the gunship. Everyone else, get a basic picture of what's going on around here. If we can get the other groups to start fighting each other, that'll help. You want us to start a riot? Zaid said, looking for clarification. Not at the moment, but when the time is right, he could do that. You got it. They separated with Miranda and Jacob falling back to check the rooms they had passed. When they got to the second barricade, Zaid and Ruko broke away. Naruto stopped his sister before she left with a hand to her arm. Don't start a fight, he told her. Yeah, I know, she replied, jerking her arm out of his grip. She followed Zaid down the barricade. He looked around. The second barricade stretched the entire room and was about a quarter of its height tall. At the end of each side was a small opening that allowed people to move forward. If he stood upright, he'd have a good chance of being shot. So he kept himself in a half-crouch. Bloodpack, Vorsha, and Einherjar manned the third barricade, but the second was manned by the Blue Suns. If he peeked over the side, he could see Eclipse up at the front readying some of the mechs. That's 3 of them, he thought to himself as he walked down the barricade. Where are the Ronin? Down the line and on the right, Gaki, Kurama told him. He turned and saw 2 humans standing against the wall without a care in the galaxy. One stood taller than the other by a few inches and had brown hair cropped short. The other had his long black hair bundled into a knot, and had a swarthy complexion to his friend's pale. Both wore different kinds of armor and handled different weapons, the swarthy one a rifle and the pale a shotgun. What they had in common was the symbol of the alliance over their hearts crossed out. They stared at him as he stared at them. Then they did a strange thing, they inclined their heads and left. What was that all about? Naruto wondered as he watched them leave. Maybe they know you? Isabu suggested. I have the helmet on. How could they have recognized me, let alone know me? I don't know. It was just a suggestion. You were gone for 2 years, under the care of the tribe, he reminded the turtle. Not for the first couple of weeks after the Normandy was ambushed, Kurama pointed out. You might have done something then that made them recognize you. Again, wearing the helmet, he said to the fox. He started making his way to one of the openings in the barricade. But I will admit that other part holds water. Have you guys found anything in my memories? Were we supposed to be looking? Shikaka asked. Yes. Why didn't you say anything about it? I would have thought that the lack of 2 years' worth of memories would have been enough to get you curious. I guess I was wrong. Relax, Gaki, Kurama told him. Please remember you're talking to the one Biju that gets frequent memory loss. I do not. Shikaka protested. The Kyuubi ignored him. I was curious and I took a look. And? Asked Naruto. There was nothing. What do you mean there was nothing? Just like I said, there was nothing. From the time the Normandy was attacked to the time you woke up in that cell, you have no memories. It's a complete blank. Not even a ceiling block on them? There's nothing. For all intents and purposes, those 2 years did not exist. What about your own? I checked that too and I checked with the others. We can't remember either. We did our own checks just to be sure, Saiken told their Jinchuriki. None of us remember anything in those 2 years. Whatever the tribe did was very thorough, Kurama stated. Shit. Things were never easy, were they? How was he supposed to get these inhibitors out when they didn't leave anything for him to go on? He would have to rely more and more on the Akatsuki for that kind of information, and that wasn't something he liked. But there was nothing he could do about it now. It was best to focus on what had to be done. He walked past the second barricade and went up to the first. It was just like the second or the third, albeit shorter in length. Only a few actual people manned this barricade, the rest were mechs. A few freelancers were standing around, just waiting. He walked up to the closet one, a human who stood with his back against the wall right of the barricade. I'm looking for Kathka, he said shortly. The freelancer looked over at him. You and me both, pal. He's over there, working on the gunship. He jerked his head to the other side of the room, where a half-sitting area showed a group of blue suns standing in front of said gunship behind it. We go over the bridge when he gives the word. Go talk to him if you want, but I'm in no hurry. He walked over to the other side. Behind the guards, he saw sparks flying from underneath the gunship. Someone is working on it. That's going to make trying to sabotage the thing a little difficult, Coco commented. Anything you try to damage, they'll notice and fix. It's going to be a problem, Sun declared. Oh, I'm sure that he'll figure something out, Komi stated. He stopped before the guard, keeping his hands in plain sight. You Katka? He asked the guard in front. No, I am, a voice from under the gunship answered him. From that same place emerged a Blue Sun's Batarian, completely armored and helmeted too. He held a tool in his hand, probably the one he had been using to work on the gunship. He made one gesture, and the guards walked off a little. He touched the side of his helmet, and the visor lightened so the eyes could be seen. And it's Sergeant Katka, noted, Naruto said shortly. He eyed the hooded and armored stranger in front of him. The robe might have been a bit much for his tastes, but the armor was well done, and he looked like he could handle himself in a fight. That's all he needed to know. You must be a part of the group, Saki mentioned. His eyes hardened. We're going to have words about your treatment of him later. My treatment? The stranger repeated, making it a question instead. He's the one you shot in the legs. Ah, him, he said in understanding. Of course, I shot him in the legs. What else would I have done when he was giving my sister an eyeful? As I said later, Katka told him. The infiltration team is about to give us the signal. Archangel and his friends won't know what hit him. He walked over to a nearby tool drawer and put the tool in his hand down on top of it. Got any questions? This might be your last chance. He grabbed a strangely colored cigarette and a lighter, his intent obvious. He inhaled and blew out the smoke right in Naruto's face. But the blonde did nothing in response. You leading the charge? He asked instead. The Batarian barked out a laugh at that. Turok doesn't pay me to fight. I just plan the attacks and fix the damn gunships. You freelancers get the privilege of. The screen on top of the drawer came alive with a burst of noise, getting his attention. Targets in sight, a voice declared. We're a go. Check, he replied. Bravo team, go, go, go. The sound of feet striking the ground filled the air to make an inconstant drumming sound against the ear. This was no march of disciplined soldiers, but the many strides of different people walking together. If Naruto turned his gaze backwards, he would have seen the freelancers starting to head over the first barricade. Archangel and his friends have quite the surprise waiting for them, Katka said smugly as he turned away from the drawer. But that means no more waiting for me. His visor darkened as he turned back to the gunship. Gotta get back to 100% before Turok decides he needs her again, he said mostly to himself. He started to hum a small tune to himself, something that he had heard a while back. But then he stiffened up as he felt a sharp pain in his back. What hurts so much? He asked himself. His armor has top-of-the-line shields. He should have gotten some kind of warning. Why are my legs so weak? He asked as he fell to the ground. Why is the room going dark? Brutal of you, Naruto, Gyuki commented as the Batarian died on the ground from a single kunai thrust to the lower back. Necessary, he replied as he sheathed the kunai inside his robe and walked away. Now the gunship wouldn't get off the ground. You know, that thing might still come after you, Shikaku commented. Ah shit, the other 8 said in unison. You jinxed us. He realized his mistake too late. Sorry. He apologized quickly. Naruto quickly met up with the rest of his team. Well? He asked as they stood behind the moving freelancers, close to the wall. Things are tense back here, Zay told him, keeping his voice low. All it would take is one bullet and in-house fighting would kick off. On a better note, we found some of the heavy mechs that were in the middle of being reprogrammed, Miranda said, following his example. I made a few adjustments. If they're active, they'll think everyone is an enemy. Let's just hope the people manning them are stupid enough to activate behind their lines, Jacob added. That's great, but we've got a problem, Ruko said. What? Naruto asked her, more like who? She looked over her right shoulder and said, him. They saw Arya's man standing nearby, his sword on his shoulder. Fuck Kojiro, Naruto said. What the hell is he going here? I'm more surprised that Arya lets her dog off the leash, Zaid remarked. He didn't think he went anywhere the Asari wasn't. What should we do? Jacob asked. For now, nothing, his commander said. Let's just assume he's here for Arya's sake. We stay out of his way. Perhaps he'll stay out of ours. We should get moving, Miranda said. They won't have much time left. What the fuck are we waiting for, then? Ruko demanded. Let's get a move on. Wait, said Naruto. For what? She asked. They don't know that we're here to save them and their sniper might actually try to shoot us. I want a good wall of heads between us and them so we can get through safely. That sounds like a good plan. Do you mind if I join you? Kojiro asked. standing beside the armored blonde. Those who had to whip their heads to look at him. "What are you doing here?" Zaid demanded. 1 second, the guy was further down the wall, the next he was right next to him. He knew enough shinobi to know that they could be fast, but that fast in that short of a time? He hadn't seen that before. "I saw people I knew and I wandered over to say hello," the swordsman said conversationally. "And then I heard your plan. I like it. I'll follow you." Naruto had been keeping an eye out on the freelancers and noted that about half of them had gone over the first barricade. No time to argue. "Let's go." They joined the freelancers and hopped over the barricade onto the boulevard. Already there were dead bodies on the ground and people firing back at the building on the other end. He could see a vaguely Turian figure standing on the second floor of said building. When he took down one of the mercs shooting at him, Naruto guessed that he was one of the targets. "You're going to run out of meat for the wall if you keep standing there," Kurama reminded him. "Get your ass moving already." He started forward while keeping his head slightly ducked. His team followed his idea. As the majority of the freelancers moved forward to attack, they followed but did not shoot. It was a quick-paced move down the boulevard that had mercs dropping dead every couple of seconds along the way. "Okay, I know this is going to sound weird," Komiya began. "It already is now that you've said that," Shikaka told him. "You don't get to talk after jinxing us," Koko said to the tanuki with a voice that was somewhere between crossed and annoyed. "I said I was sorry. It was an accidental saying. It still happened. Anyway, as I was saying," the nanabai continued. "Does anyone else think the sniper's style of shooting looks familiar?" "I see it," Sun told him. "Same here," Matatabi said. "Gaki," Kurama began to say to Naruto. "I know," he replied. He had noticed about halfway down the boulevard. "It's a relief. It'll make things easier for me." "That may be, but you still have to deal with all these freelancers." "That'll be the easy part." They were coming up to the other side, out of reach and sight of the sniper. For a moment, the freelancers paused and breathed in relief. Now came the easy part, or so they thought. The second the first merc entered the building, the others quickly followed with them at the back. As soon as they stepped in, the door closed shut behind them. The mercs were a little surprised to say the least. What was that?" "Hey, I can't see anything from here." "The doors are closed." "Who closed them? Didn't those Eclipse guys say that they managed to turn this place off?" "They must have been lying." "What do we do now? Are you stupid or something?" "We keep moving. Archangel is right above us. If the others can keep him busy, he's easy meat." "What about the infiltration team?" "Fuck him, Archangel's ours." The merc who said those words went for the stairs in the middle of the building. "Wait, what about his teammates?" Another merc said aloud. That question was answered when a tall human appeared from the top of the stairs and beheaded the leading merc with a single swing of his broadaxe. Another human appeared and began beating down the next merc with a large bakken. Naturally, the mercs were surprised by the appearance, and voiced their surprise. "What the fuck? Where did they come from?" Kojiro had a different question. "Now?" he asked Naruto conversationally as he lowered his sword. "Now," he replied, shooting the freelancer in front of him in the head. That caused even more surprise. "Mow them down," Naruto ordered his team, grabbed his war hawks by the barrels. The closest freelancer tried shoving his shotgun into his mouth. His first swing knocked the gun away. The second broke the guy's nose. The third drove him to the ground. "About fucking time," crowed Ruko as she flared her biotics and threw them into the group in front of her. They went flying every which way. Some landed on their feet, rolling off the damage, but the majority she struck hit the walls and fell to the ground in heaps. She had taken out a chunk of them but also spread them out across the room. "Very nicely done," Miranda told her with the driest sarcasm she could muster. "You want to do any better?" she challenged, gladly. She flared her own biotics and threw a singularity into the air. Those who weren't quick enough to get out of the way were soon floating in the air around it. "All right, target practice," Zaid said with a cruel smile as he raised his gun and started shooting. Jacob followed his example and shot the freelancers floating in the air. "How was that better?" Ruko asked Miranda as she sent a merc flying with a hard biotic blast. "You just made them scatter more." The mercs were doing the best they could to make sure they didn't get caught by the singularity. "Yes, but I gathered more in closely." She dragged a merc towards her with her biotics and shot him through the face. "Can you do any better? Watch me." She charged her biotics in both her arms and started throwing them out left and right. Miranda rolled her eyes but flared her biotics again and joined her in the fighting. "Ah, allies," the giant with the axe said with a laugh while decapitating a Solarian merc, well away from the stairs. "That is good." Naruto battered and bashed his way through the mercs, but how he fought paled to Kojiro's method. The swordsman walked casually through the mercs, his sword slicing lazily through the air, and yet great cuts and rents appeared in the armors he struck. There was a bored expression on his face as he fought, but when he saw the Bakken-wielding human being surrounded by the freelancers, the expression turned into one of angered exasperation. He leapt over the mercs and landed in the circle alongside him. Without saying a word to one another, the two placed their backs to each other and fended off the mercs. "What? No telling me not to kill them?" Kojiro asked. "Not now," the Bakken wielder replied, keeping his focus on the fight. He had a few inches on him, making him taller. "Say, Jacob, break them out," Naruto ordered, pointing at the circle. They turned their guns from the singularity and opened fire on the circle. The mercs hadn't expected it, and when they were able to turn and adapt, it was too late. Both Kojiro and the Bakken wielder got out. Once they were out, they turned their attention to them. They didn't last long. "Hey, we've still got people living up there," Ruko shouted, pointing up at the singularity, where still living mercs floated in the air. "No worries," the giant said. "I will take care of it." He pulled his axe out of a battalion and held it to his face for a moment. Runes began to glow against the edge and Naruto could feel him using chakra. Then he threw it. "Is he nuts?" Shikaku demanded as the axe left his hands. It spun through the air, going right to the singularity. It sliced through each one of the mercs, spinning around the black hole, and came right back to its owner's hands. "Apparently not," Isabu said. As the singularity disappeared and the bodies fell, the fight ended. Everyone just stood there for a moment, taking it to breathe. When the moment was gone, the Bakken wielder spoke. "How long were you waiting to get in here?" he asked. Kojiro, standing across from him with his weapon, stained with blood, was held at the ready. "For some time now," the swordsman answered as he flicked the blood off his blade and slid it home. "Now isn't the time for it. That's what you always say. If I didn't know better, I would say that you were trying to run from me." The man facing him growled but did not move. Naruto stared at all the carnage. Suddenly, another scene was superimposed over it, with many Midgardian warriors and Einherjar dead on the ground and Sakura standing amongst them, holding on to the last live one. "Please, mercy," the man begged as he struggled to get his neck free of her grip. "Your kind doesn't deserve mercy." "Not after what you did," Sakura told him. "I wasn't there. None of us here were there." "Sakura, stand down," a far-off voice spoke out. She didn't look back at the voice. Instead, she snapped the man's neck. "Hey, Commander, you good?" asked Jacob when he noticed that Naruto was just standing. The question snapped the armored blonde out of his trance, losing the sight of his old teammate amongst the dead. "Yeah, I'm fine," he said shortly. He turned his attention to the two ambushers. "You guys are Sword Saint and Thor." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "Sword Saint? Really?" said Kojiro to the Bakken wielder. He didn't reply. "Yes, we are," the axe-carrying giant said, lowering the axe and taking off his horned helmet that proclaimed him to be an Einherjar, letting his blonde braided hair fall down. "I am Eric and this is Musashi." He gestured over to the Bakken wielder, who seemed a lot shorter when compared to him. He smiled broadly, but Naruto could see the eyes watching their every movement and the hand keeping a tight grip on his weapon. This guy was not easily fooled. "What are you doing here?" "We're here to save you guys and get you out of here," Naruto told him. "How do we know that's what you intend to do?" Musashi asked, his voice suspicious. Both of them wore armor that had seen a lot of action and could really use a repair job. He had a loop in his belt for the Bakken and several other pouches on it as well. "Let me talk to Archangel, he'll vouch for me." He started for the stairs, walking calmly over the dead bodies that were in his way. "And what makes you think that?" "Because he knows me," he replied without stopping, already at the stairs. "Come on. I'm sure you'll want to see this for yourself." He didn't wait for a reply on the idea. But he did hear them following him up the stairs. At the top, he saw a door to the far right, the light green. The floor was strewn with dead bodies, evidence of previous attacks having failed. He made his way down to it, lowering his hood and letting his helmet draw back. The door opened, showing him into a large room that was also a part of the balcony. The same figure he saw on the boulevard was still shooting. It was most definitely a Turian. He waited until the shot was fired before he spoke up. "Having fun, Gurus? Or should I call you Archangel?" The Turian froze in place. Then he whipped around to point the rifle at the blonde. Neither of them moved while the gun was pointed at him. But when the door opened and the rest followed in, the Turian lowered the weapon, walked off the balcony to a chair, sat down, put down his rifle and took off his helmet. "Naruto, I thought you were dead," Gurus said as he looked at the blonde. There was a small look of surprise on his face as he spoke. Well, I'm not. I can see that. How did you know it was me? He gestured shortly to the balcony. You kept aiming for the head. A lot of snipers do that. A lot of snipers aren't able to do multiple shots on moving targets in that short amount of time. He looked at the Turian, being completely serious. What are you doing here, Geras? He is helping, Eric stated. Naruto turned to look back at the bigger blonde. I was asking him, not you. It's alright, you guys, Geras said to Musashi and Eric. I know him. You can trust him. And I was just doing a little target practice to keep my skills sharp, he told Naruto. How are you holding up? Been better, he admitted. But it sure is good to meet a friendly face. What are we? Chopped sushi? Musashi asked him. Friendly faces that I haven't seen in a while. You've been busy, Naruto stated. He shrugged his shoulders. Killing mercs is hard work. Especially when it's only the three of us, he said. My, you have been busy, haven't you? Kojiro asked Musashi. Stow it, the Bakken wielder told him. Geras looked to the two of them, his eyes narrowing at the sight. Musashi, is he? Yes. He looked at Naruto. You brought him with you. We didn't know he was here until he decided to join us, Naruto replied. He caught us off guard too. But what's the deal with them? He could see the way the two of them acted around one another. They have a history. A history? Repeated Kojiro. He looked at Musashi. Is that you've been telling other people? That we have a history? He sounded annoyed but also amused. I said stow it, he said. Now isn't the time for it, okay? Ruko, stand between them, please, Naruto ordered. Yeah, fine, she replied, stepping away from Miranda and getting right between the two, pushing them apart as, Naruto, who exactly is she? Asked Geras, looking at her. He had noticed her when she had walked into the room. But only now he was able to see her fully. She's my sister, the blonde answered shortly like it was no big deal. She's your, you know what? Fine, he decided. Weird things happened around his former commander. It was just a fact of life. In all honesty, he shouldn't be that surprised. This is all well and good, but we still have a problem, Eric said. Yeah, I know, Eric. I'm guessing it won't be easy to get out as it was getting in. Jacob asked for confirmation. No, it won't, the Turian answered him as he stood back up again. That bridge has saved our lives, funneling those witless idiots into my scope. Any that get past are dealt with by Eric and Musashi. But it works both ways. They'll slaughter us if we try to get out that way. We tried once and it almost cost Eric his arm. I have told you before, Geras, there are no hard feelings about that, the giant blonde said to him. So we're basically fucked, is that it? Ruko asked. It's not all that bad, Geras told her. This place has held them off so far. Well, I'm afraid that your streak of good luck is about to come to an end, Kojiro said. All eyes turned to him. Why? Musashi asked, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. His hand started for the Bakken. If you had something to do with it, relax. It's not because of me. No, it's about to end because a team from the tribe has joined the group out there. The tribe? Repeated Geras. What are they doing here, if I had to guess? He asked rhetorically. I'd say that they were here for him. He pointed his sword at Naruto. Oh fuck, Gyuki stated. See what you did? Komi, I said to Shikaku. I said I was sorry. But come on, it couldn't get any war. Don't finish that sentence. The other 8 Biju roared at him. Well, this is going to be a problem, Zaid stated. Thank you for stating the fucking obvious, Ruko said to him. There's no need to start fighting, Miranda told the both of them. They had something more serious to worry about. We need to figure out a way to get past that blockade. There's nothing we really can do, Musashi told her. We're stuck here. Maybe not, Geras said as he walked back over to the balcony. We might get out of this just yet. You got a plan, Geras? Naruto asked him. Not so much a plan as a twist to what we're already doing. It was more than what he had. Shoot, I suggest that we hold this location, wait for a crack in their defenses, and take our chances. That's suicide, Geras, Musashi told him. He's right, Miranda agreed. I like it, Eric said with a big grin. Same here, said Ruko with the same kind of grin. We barely have a chance in hell to get out alive. What are we waiting for? How about something that actually resembles a plan instead of a vague idea of it? Miranda asked her pointedly. She lost the smile, replacing it with a scowl. You got something better, cheerleader? If the two of you are done? Asked Geras, looking at them both. I will be the first to admit that what I've come with isn't a perfect plan, but it is a plan. Geras, you'll never find the perfect plan. It doesn't exist, Naruto told him. What we've got now will work. We've got the advantage here. Yeah, you're right. Their numbers won't help them in here, anyway. I think you're forgetting the tribe, Kojiro commented. They are a cut above the rest of the mercs you've managed to piss off. How do you know about the tribe anyway? Miranda asked him, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. Enough to know that it is unwise to underestimate them, he answered with a smile. Answer her question, Musashi told him. I did. Weren't you listening? You dodged the question and you know it. Now answer it proper. Or what? He asked glibly. What he got was a smack on his hand from the Bakken, making him drop the sword and then feeling the Bakken on his neck. Ah, that kind of what, he said without a care on Omega. Answer the question, Musashi repeated. All right, they've done some dealings with Arya. Nothing that horrendous or big, he explained. And please don't ask why she would do something like that, Commander, he said to Naruto. Why would I? The blonde asked him. I know what she is and what this place is. Ah, good. And here I thought that I was going to have rid you of a couple of notions. Then it's obvious that you've been blind and dead a couple of hours ago, he said flatly. I take the reunion between you and the Pirate Queen didn't go so romantically? Geras asked with an amused tone. Were you expecting something else? Not really, no, he admitted. I'm just a little curious on how you plan to get her back, if you are planning to get her back. Simple. I'm going to wash dishes. Is that a euphemism I don't know about? He asked, wanting to be sure. Nope, I'm actually going to wash dishes. Why? A smile, a rare kind since he had woken up, formed on his lips. One of the things that Jiraiya taught me that actually held water. There's nothing sexier to a woman than a man doing household chores. Everyone stared at him like he had said the weirdest thing in the entirety of the universe. You must be joking, Miranda finally said. I'm not, he replied. There is nothing sexier to a woman than a man doing household chores. It's why Jiraiya always sealed away a vacuum cleaner and other assorted cleaning equipment when going away on one of his long trips. A vacuum cleaner? Repeated Jacob with a severe look of disbelief. You can't be serious. I am serious. Where do you think he slept when he was in a city or something? He would call on one of the women he knew, get himself invited in, cook them dinner, then clean the dishes or vacuum the house. That can't actually work, Musashi protested. Of course it does. I've done it myself. You have? Yes, on Arya. One of your proudest moments, Kurama said with dry amusement but also pride too. You've done it on Arya? Geras said. He wanted to be sure he heard it right because the image in his head was too surreal. Yep, the blonde replied. Cooked her dinner one time and cleaned the dishes afterwards. We never made it to the bedroom. Nice, Ruko said with a grin. Very impressive, Eric said. I approve. Gotta say, that's something I'll have to remember, Zaid remarked with a feral grin. Geras just shook his head and turned his attention back to the balcony. We have company, he announced as he looked through the scope of his rifle. And it looks like they figured out their infiltration team failed. What do we have? Naruto asked him, coming up beside him. Take a look. He offered the scope to the blonde. Scouts. Eclipse, I think. He took a look through the scope and saw Loki mechs coming over the barricade and down the boulevard. Are mechs usually the scouts? He asked as he took his eye off the scope. If it's Eclipse, usually, the Turian replied, taking back the gun. We'd better get ready. Any ideas besides shooting them? He asked. I don't suppose one of your teammates could rig up some EMP mines to stall them long enough. His face fell flat at those words. Yes and no, he said. What does that mean? Yes, I do have someone like that on the team. No, she's not here with us. Why not? Asked Geras. It's Quan Misley. He looked at the blonde with stunned surprise on his face. She's alive? He nodded once. She got out of Vermeer alive. The Akatsuki helped her get out. What about Kaden? No, he's still dead. I just don't know if it was from the Geth or not. He looked intently at him. You think that she did it? I don't know yet. But he would find out. Gaki, could you focus on the matter at hand, please? Kurama asked. You have robots coming your way ready and willing to shoot you. I am aware, he replied shortly. He turned around to face his team in Geras's. Anyone else know how to handle a sniper rifle? I have some training, Commander, Jacob answered. As do I, Eric said seriously. Musashi shrugged his shoulders. I'm a decent shot. Really? Asked Kojiro with a false expression of wonder. Whenever were you going to tell me about it? Hopefully never, he replied shortly. Were you hoping to take me out another way? That won't do, Musashi. You remember our promise, right? I was with CCC. They wanted me to learn something useful, and your Bakken wasn't useful? He sounded oddly insulted by that implication. Take it up with them. Guys, Geras said, getting the attention of the taller one. Let's focus on getting out of here alive, huh? That is a good plan, Eric declared. Where do you keep the rifles again? Over there on that sofa, he answered, jerking his head over to his right. The sofa was long, just like the others in the room. Only this one was stacked with additional rifles. Aren't you glad we raided the Blue Sun's armory before getting stuck here? He asked as he, Musashi, and Jacob went over to the rifles and picked one. We should switch to the right unclips, Musashi said. They'll be the best form of attack against the mechs. Good point, Jacob conceded, already going for the clip in question. In the meantime, the rest of us will head downstairs, Naruto said to Geras. If any get through, we'll take care of them. That's a good idea, the Turian said back. We'll stay up here. We can do a lot of damage from this vantage point. Okay. A rare smirk came onto his lips at that moment. And Geras, if any do actually make it through, I will be very disappointed in you. His mandibles twitched slightly as he reined in his humor. Well, then I should probably make sure I don't disappoint. After all, I am the best sniper you've ever had in the Normandy clan. Okami save me, thought the blonde in disbelief. The Biju, on the other hand, started to snigger. I guess that name isn't going anywhere, Shikaku declared. Thank you for stating the obvious, Captain. He looked at Geras. You mean to say that I could find a better sniper out there? The Turian snorted at that. I'd like to see you try. See you after the fight, Geras. You too, Commander, he said before putting his helmet back on and going back onto the balcony. Eric put on his horned helmet. Musashi pulled a balaclava from a pouch on his belt and put it. Jacob activated his helmet, and his visor go dark so his face would be hidden. All three of them went to the balcony beside Geras and started firing. The rest left the room. Naruto activated his helmet again, letting it slide up over his head and enclose around him before pulling up the hood. So that's what we're going to do? Ruko asked. Just hold down the front door in case anyone else gets through. There's not much else you can do, is there? Miranda asked her. Shut up, cheerleader, she snapped back. I wasn't talking to you. She's right, Ruko, Naruto told his sister as they walked down the steps. Those who are good shots with sniper rifles are already upstairs. We're better off down here and stop them from getting in. That is if the front door is the only way in, Zaid pointed as they came down to the main level. He looked at the merc for a long moment. That's a good point. He activated the comm in his ear. Geras, is there any way else into here besides the front door? Yeah, there is, Geras answered. What are they? There's the basement. The door to that is on the west side of the main room. Miranda, go lock it. On it, Commander, Miranda replied before turning west and going to find the door. I'll go with her, Kojiro decided, going after her before anyone could say otherwise. Anywhere else? He asked Geras. Just the other doors on the main level, the Turian answered. Don't worry. We had them locked at the start of this little siege. We'll double-check them. Be my guest. The comm went quiet, and he looked at the other two members of his team. Zaid, Ruko, go check those doors. Didn't he already say that they were locked? Ruko asked him. Why the hell are we checking them? Because I want to make sure they are locked, and we don't get ambushed suddenly. He's got a point, so just move it, Zaid told her. Fine, whatever, she said in defeat but with a roll of her eyes. You know who she reminds me of? Kurama asked as she and Zaid went to check those doors. Are you going to tell me even when I don't want to know? His Jinchuriki asked back. As he waited, he could hear the sounds of bullets being fired from up above. It provided a steady rhythm to his ears. Yes. She reminds me of Izu when you were younger and stupider. If this was any other time and I was different, I might have argued about that. But I can see where you're getting that. Well, why do you know? You could actually admit to being stupid when you were younger. I'm so proud of you, Gaki. Shut up, I'm trying to make sure that we don't die out here. You're standing in the middle of the room listening to the guys up shooting the robots. There were also shouts of victory coming faintly from above, but he wasn't going to try and argue that point. I'm waiting for the others to come back. Of course you are, the fox said with utmost dryness. Are the rest of you not going to say anything? He asked, looking at the other 8 Biju in his head. Nah, you seem to have this covered, Sun said with a grin. Lord Uzumaki, come in, a voice spoke through the comm. What the? He didn't have anyone on his team or Geras contacting him. They were all doing what they had been told to do. So who was on his comm? Lord Uzumaki, come in. That same voice repeated itself. Whoever it belonged to, it sounded human and male. It was also coming to him from a frequency he didn't know and didn't use. Who's contacting me? He asked through the comm to the others. Is it one of you guys? Not me, Ruko answered. Same here, Zaid told him. It's not me, Commander, Miranda replied. A little busy here to be talking to you, Naruto, Geras remarked. Scoped and dropped. Nice shot, Vicarian. Eric congratulated him. Also, I did not contact you, Commander Uzumaki. Neither did I, Musashi said. I didn't either, Kojiro announced. Well, that's the usual suspects, Yuki declared. Anyone else you know who could be contacting you, Naruto? If I did, would I be asking who it was? He asked the Hachibi. Good point. Lord Uzumaki, come in. The voice spoke a third time. Who is this? He demanded, finally speaking to the voice. This is Shin of the Ronin. What do you want? You seem to be in a little bit of a pickle. You're hemmed into that building with everyone on the side gunning for you. Thank you for noticing. The sarcasm in his voice was thick enough to paint with. Perhaps you've also noticed that you're a part of that other side? For the moment, the voice replied. He went still at those words. What do you mean by that? With the right incentive, things will not be so sure over on this side of the boulevard. Are you saying that if I paid you, your group will be willing to turn on the others and start a bloodbath? He asked, his voice showing an anger that was growing. He might have planned to do the same thing, but he would have done it himself. He wouldn't have hired mercs to do it for him. Mercenaries, Sun said. Over 2,000 years and nothing has ever changed. I hear that, Shikaku agreed with the Yanbi. But the answer the merc on the other end of the comm gave was not an actual answer. Not exactly. What in the name of Kami is that supposed to mean? Ah, hell, the other voice said. You really don't remember, do you? Are you going to start making sense any time soon? Hang on. The boss wanted me to tell you something that would make you believe us. How does it go again? Oh, right. The only way to win the long game is to rig it in your odds, he answered immediately, the words coming out of his mouth without him even thinking about it. What the? Don't look at us, Gaki, Kurama told him. That wasn't any of us. Good to know you remember that, Shin said to him. Remember what? What is he going on about? And yet, for some odd reason, he felt like he could trust what he had been told. When you're ready, give us the signal. Contact me on this frequency. The line went dead, leaving him alone. What's the plan, Naruto? Saiken asked him. He didn't answer the Rokubi. Instead he activated the Comgurus. How's it coming? We're making some headway. Though looks like they're about to send out the big guns, the Turian replied. Which means what? Eclipse has a heavy mech, Musashi answered him. I can see it being prepped. Don't worry about it. It's been taken care of. Are you sure about that? Gurus asked him. Yeah, I'm sure. When they deploy that heavy mech, don't try shooting it. I want you to pull back and regroup down here with me. You want us to do what? Eric asked, confusion painting his thick accent. You heard me, Eric. He had a feeling that they wouldn't be so sure about his plan. That wasn't needed now. Gurus, do you trust me? Yes, I do. Then pull back when the heavy mech is deployed. All right, thank you, Gurus. To the others, he had something else to say. Everyone else, how are we looking? The basement is clear, Miranda declared. And such in clean conditions too, Kojiro added. You've done some excellent work down here, Musashi. Really, I'm impressed. Is he always this annoying? Naruto asked the Bakken wielder. Only when he's trying to piss me off, he replied. Keep whatever history you two have under wraps for now. We don't need it. Tell that to him, not me. No need to worry, I heard it loud and clear, the other human declared. I doubt it. Anyway, the blonde continued. Zaid, how about you and Ruko? The doors are fucking fine. His sister shouted across the room. I can hear you through the comm, Ruko. There's no need to shout at me. Oh, there's a need. The doors are fine. They're locked nice and tight, Zaid told him over the comm. That's what I told him. Ruko shouted, this time more at the merc rather than him. I wasn't sure if he could hear over the screaming, he replied glibly. Ooh, I like him, Shikaka said with a grin. Are you keeping him? He's not a pet, Naruto told the Tanuki. He's a human being who has the right to choose what he wants to do. Of course he does. So, are you keeping him? He restrained the urge to groan and mutter something insulting. It wouldn't do anything, so why should he bother? Shikaku, the guy already said that he was hired to be on the team, Komiai reminded the Ichibi. That means he's staying. Oh good, he declared happily. We need some humor around here. We have enough of that already, the Jinchuriki told him. No, we don't. We really don't. He focused back on everyone else. If everything is good, then fall back to me. Aye, Commander, Miranda replied. On our way, Zaid told him. We are in the same room. We don't need to use the fucking comms. Ruko shouted. You see what I mean about you as a kid? Kurama asked him, clearly enjoying it. They quickly rejoined him next to the stairs. What now? Zaid asked him. We wait. For what? As if on cue, Gurus came onto the comm. Commander, they deployed the heavy mech. And what's happening? Naruto asked him. It's son of a bitch, Gurus. What's happening? It reacting just like how Miranda programmed it, Commander, Jacob answered. It's turned its guns on the barricade. The mercenaries are shooting it for us. We won't have to worry about it. Good. Pull back now. If you're not in love with the rifle you're holding, Leave it behind. Are you nuts? Eric asked him. You do not just leave a weapon behind. It happens all the time. Just leave it. Eric, we don't have time to argue, Gurus told the giant blonde. Just drop it and move. You're already carrying enough as it is with that axe and mortar. Ugh, fine. But I am not happy with this, duly noted, Naruto said. Now move. The sounds of feet moving quickly were heard overhead. They appeared on the upstairs floor and quickly went to the stairs, coming down in a buzz of stomping feet. They were beside the rest of the team in seconds. Okay, we're here, Gurus noticed. No, really? Asked a sarcastic Ruko. Ruko, do be quiet, Miranda all but ordered her. Bite me and blow it out your ass, she snapped back. Enough, Naruto told them both. They quieted down at the hidden command. What now, Commander? Jacob asked him. Find cover by the front door. Don't step out just yet. They did as he instructed. The door opened when they were close enough, but they did not move out, giving them a perfect view of the heavy mech laying waste to the barricade. Gurus has a zoom feature on his mini visor, which he used to watch more closely. Looks like that mech just took out Jarath, he said with vicious satisfaction. You know the guy? Zaid asked him. We used to, unfortunately, Musashi answered. He's been after us for a while now since I bashed his brother's legs in and Gurus put a bullet through his eye. Lovely image, Miranda remarked. Feeling nauseated by that image, cheerleader? Ruko asked her nastily. Hardly, she replied with a snap. Why don't I believe you? I said enough, Naruto said to them both. They fell silent once more. The heavy mech scope exploded and the machine fell to the ground. And there goes our break time, Zaid declared. Now what do we do? Yes, what do we do now, Naruto? Kurama asked him, half sarcastic but also half serious. He activated the comm shin. You still out there? He asked. Nice to hear from you, the voice on the other end spoke. Are you ready for us? Yes. Alrighty then, just give us the word and we'll get right to it. You heard him, Naruto, Koko said. Tell him to go ahead. He didn't say that, Aisabu protested. He said give them the word? He didn't mention what the word was. He's right, Matatabi said in agreement. Any ideas? Asked Gyuki. I've got squat, Komi, told them, sounding a little embarrassed to actually say those words. How about you, Kurama? Asked Aisabu, looking at the fox. He didn't answer the turtle, instead keeping his attention on his Jinchuriki. What's it going to be, Naruto? He knew he shouldn't know what the word was. It could have been one in the millions of words he knew, and that was only in the one language he actually knew. There were many other languages out there in the universe, and the word could be from any of them. How would they figure out which species of languages was the right one and then, by extension, the right language and the right word to use? It was enough to make someone's head hurt, but his didn't. A word came bubbling out of nowhere, and popped up in his mind. Riptide, he said automatically. The calm went dead and they began to wait in silence. Well, that was hopeful, Zaid remarked drily. We just need to be patient, the hooded blonde told him. Good thing I'm no stranger to that. Where did Riptide come from? Saiken asked. I don't know, Naruto told the slug, but you said it. It just came to me, okay? Hang on, something's going on, Gurus announced, his mini visor zooming in for all it could. Everyone turned their attentions to him. What do you got? Naruto asked. I don't believe it, he said in surprise as he kept staring through the mini visor. What is happening? Eric asked him. They're actually fighting against one another. What? Gurus, are you sure? Musashi asked him. I know what I'm looking at, he replied, his voice still showing his surprise. His eye was locked in on the sight of gunfire, biotics, and what looked like fire, water, and lightning, which meant jutsus, were erupting from behind the barricade. They're fighting each other. So what do we do now? Jacob asked him. Do you really have to fucking ask that question? Ruko asked back. We make a run for it. She's right, Naruto agreed as he pulled out his pistols, inserting a katan and futon clip. Weapons out and ready to be used, he ordered them all. Gurus, I hope you got something else than that rifle. We can't have you hanging in the back. I'm fine, Gurus told him as he pulled out a grenade launcher. This will add to their confusion and soften them up a little for us. Good to hear. He looked at Musashi and Eric, then at their weapons. I hope you two know how to use those things because you're going to be out in front with Kojiro. Oh goody, I'll have company, Kojiro commented. We know how to use them. You can trust us, Eric assured him. The horned giant pulled out his broad axe. His hands came alight with chakra and symbols appeared on the blade, burning bright blue. Musashi pulled out his baken and held it in his left hand whilst making a hand seal with the other. Kotan, Togu, steel style, sharpen, he whispered. The baken turned a shade of dark gray and stayed like that. We're ready, Miranda told Naruto. Everyone had a weapon out and was ready to use it. The only one who wasn't like that was Kojiro with his sheathed sword, but his stance showed that he was ready. Naruto activated the calm once more. Shin, we're coming out. Thank you for the notification, my lord, the voice replied, sounding strained. We'll try to stay out of your way as you leave. The line went dead. Go, go, go! He shouted, taking the lead as he charged out the door. Do you remember when I said you were Mr. Charge Straight In? Kurama asked him. It also applies to charging straight out too. A little busy here, Fox. I'm trying to make sure we get out of here alive. Far be it from me to stop you from achieving that goal. Go on, do your job. Thank you ever so much. You guys have been around each other for too long, Shikaka declared. 2,000 years will do that. That's not what I meant and you know it, moronic fox. Hey, I don't need the arguing, Naruto told them both. Can it? They fell silent, leaving him to concentrate on running down the boulevard. Everyone else followed his lead. But even though they were running, they didn't scream any battle cries. They didn't need to announce what they were doing, not until they had to. Geras fired the first few rounds of grenades over the barricade just as they started climbing up over it. They could hear the explosions as well as feel them, like a big boom and shockwave mixing in together. If they didn't have solid grips, some of them might have fallen down. Whoa, that has got some kick to it, Sun commented. When they got over the barricade, they saw the entire situation. It wasn't just the Blue Suns and the Blood Pack fighting against the Ronin. It was every merc group for themselves. There was fighting happening everywhere. At points, one merc would fight another only to suddenly turn his attention to someone else and fight them. Musashi and Eric were out in front of him, cutting out a path. Blood flew in arcs from their weapons as they moved. The mercs who had the unfortunate problem of being in their way fell like wheat to a sickle. Those who had the time to react and try to fight didn't last long. Honed skills and a need to get out alive made the two of them fight harder and faster. Kojiro was behind them, his odachi drawn and slashing through anyone who came close. If somebody had taken the time to actually look at him, they would have noticed his movements had a casual, almost stroll-like quality to them even though he was moving at the same pace everyone else was. Another odd thing they would have noticed was that he only went after the ones who tried attacking Musashi that he hadn't noticed. Everyone else had their guns out and were shooting at anyone who tried to come close. Fortunately, the mercs were more concerned about fighting one another than them, so only a few actually tried coming after them. They kept their heads down and their faces guarded as they moved through the chaos, slipping past the second barricade. But that was where their streak of luck finally ran out. Archangel is getting away! A loud Batarian voice shouted out, getting the attention of everyone. It came from a Batarian in Blue Sun's armor standing by the barricade. He's right there. Blue Suns, regroup and kill him. Damn it, that's Tariq, Geras groused as they suddenly became bogged down just in front of the barricade as a group of Blue Suns and Blood Pack attacked them. Doesn't matter, Naruto said to him. We keep pushing through. He fired a katon bullet at Avorsha, burning it to death. Has anyone else noticed something odd? Kojiro asked as he beheaded a Batarian. What? Miranda asked him while she sent a group of fighting mercs flying with a swing of her biotics. Where is the tribe? They all did a quick look around and truly saw no markings on any of the mercs that announced they were a part of the tribe. All they saw were Blue Suns, Blood Pack, and Ronin. No tribesmen were sighted. They must have pulled back when the fighting started, Geras said. They might be waiting for us in an ambush. We're going to have to be on our guard, Jacob declared. You mean we weren't already? Zaid sarcastically asked before shooting a Blue Sun's Turian in the stomach, sending him down to the ground screaming. The Blue Suns are regrouping, Naruto said. They could see the Mercy group fighting through the other two to link up and become a fighting force. For some reason he did not know, he activated his calm Shin. Make sure they don't fully regroup. And give us a path out of here too. Why are you asking a merc for help? Kurama asked. I don't know. It just felt like the right idea. You don't even know what the guy looks like. I'm aware, but do we have any other choice? He didn't get an answer. I thought not. Looks like they heard ya, Ruko announced. The Ronin were now fighting just as hard to stop the Blue Suns as they were trying to regroup. As for that path, it suddenly opened with a flash of water that swept away the group that was bogging them down. It carried them all the way to the wall, slamming them against it. They fell to the ground, drenched in water. Lightning arced through the air and struck, electrocuting them to death. They twisted in place and screamed but soon fell dead. Thank you to whoever did that. Eric shouted into the din. Keep moving, we're halfway through, Naruto urged them all. They started moving again, running right past the second barricade. Katon Enden, Fire Style, Flame Bullet, Futon, Rankuden, Wind Style, drilling air bullet. They heard these two jutsu cried out again and again as they ran, clearing the path for them. If bodies weren't being dismembered by the air bullets, they were being burned to a quick crisp by the flame ones. Their shields could barely hold against one jutsu, and they were being struck with multiple ones. The path that was carved out was littered with their dead bodies, but they were stepped over all the same. As they made it past the last barricade, another Einherjar appeared from out of nowhere, leaping down at Musashi with his own broadaxe. Musashi didn't see until it was a second too late. He tried to raise his bakken up to stop the axe, but it slipped past and bit deep into his right shoulder. Ah, he bit out with a pained breath, falling to one knee and clutching the wounded shoulder. Eric shoved the other Einherjar back, but it was Kojiro who killed him with a single swing that bisected him right down the middle. Musashi, can you stand? Gurus asked him. Yeah, I can, he answered, standing back up. He was still clutching his shoulder as blood leaked through the armor. Anything injured? I don't know. He got me good. All right, stay out of the fight. You, he pointed at Kojiro, make sure he stays alive. That was the plan, the swordsman replied, slugging a supportive arm around Musashi, who responded in kind. They still held their weapons ready to be used. Keep moving! They ran past the last barricade and through the door they had come through the first time around. The corridors were just as full of mercs fighting each as the barricades had been. Is this going to be a constant problem? Eric asked out loud. I'm guessing so, Gurus told him. No worries, Ruko declared, moving to the front. I got this. Her biotics flared red and she lifted her fist up and back. Ruko, wait! Naruto told her. But it was too late. She threw the punch and sent her biotics flying down the hall, bowling over everyone there and sending the unlucky ones smashing into the walls. Takes care of that, she declared. You idiot! He told her. Are you trying to get us caught? She looked at him with surprise in her eyes. How was that going to get us caught? You've just alerted everyone else in the rooms ahead that we're coming. Don't be so hard, Naruto, Kurama told him, obviously amused by all of it. You used to do the same thing when you were younger. Not now, Kurama. Well, no use whining about it now, his sister declared. Let's keep it moving. They moved down the corridor, stepping over the bodies as they went. I need to have a talk with her soon, Naruto thought to himself. Oh, like how someone needed to have a talk with you. The fox asked him. Not now. The next room was full of mercs, none of which were the Ronin. They all had their guns out and pointing at the door. Oh yeah, said Ruko. Come get, Miranda, pull her back. Her brother shouted. Wah, hey! She protested as she was pulled back by Miranda. Everyone out of the way, he ordered. They all pulled back from the door but stayed close enough to keep it open. The bullets flew through the open door and struck against the opposing wall, sounding like angry bees charging en masse to their deaths. It spoke to their professionalism that the mercs stopped shooting as quickly as they had started. Okay, now what? Gurus asked him. We're going to be in a tight spot once that other door open. Anyone got a flashbang? He asked. Isn't that Quan Misley's job? Jacob asked back. Why did they leave that hunter on the ship again? Everyone relax. I've got one, Zaid declared. He pulled out the flashbang from a pouch hidden in his own armor. Here. He tossed it up to Naruto, who then threw it into the room. The flash and sound came a second later. Move through, the blonde commanded, going through the door. The mercs were buddy covering their eyes and or ears. It made getting through a lot easier. Naruto started shooting them in the legs as he passed. Less problems with them coming after this way. His team saw what he was doing and followed suit. Once they were past the room, they were back outside in the district proper, and there were no more mercs either fighting each other or trying to attack them. Phew, glad to finally get out of that mess, Gurus declared as he lowered his rifle and slowed his pace down. I've forgotten how we were held up in there. Like you were actually counting, Musashi said through gritted teeth, still holding his shoulder. We're not out of the woods just yet, Zaid told them all as they walked back to the stairs the team had climbed up when they got there. We're not safe until we're in home territory. Hey, we got out, Gurus said, turning to face him. I'd count that as a Vicarian, look out! Eric shouted at him suddenly. He turned and saw the grenade flying towards him. Oh sure. He started to swear and turn away, only for the grenade to explode as it happened. The blast sent him crashing to the ground and he landed limply. Gurus! Shouted Naruto, stepping towards him. Please don't be dead, don't move, and Asari's voice told him. If you move, I will kill him. He froze in place and watched as the Asari the voice belonged to walked up the stairs. She was cased in neck-to-toe white armor, with only a black triangle on her breastplate declaring who she belonged to. She wasn't wearing a helmet, letting her blue head be seen for all. More tribesmen cased in white armor followed her up, a couple of Solarians, Turians, and a few more Asari. They all had their weapons out and pointed at them, making them hold their place. Good, very good, the lead Asari told him, striding forward to him. She held 2 pistols like he did. Drop the weapons. The warhawks clattered as they hit the ground. Face me, if you please. He turned to look at her, and she saw the snarling fox on the helmet. She wasn't very impressed with it or him. They told me to be careful when it came to you, but I don't see what the problem is. I'll admit that paying off one of the mercs in there to start fighting was smart, but we saw coming and pulled out just in time. So, points for effort. Who are you? He asked her. Sorry, I only give my name to my friends. But you can call me the Huntress. And this would be my hunting pack. She jerked her head back at the group behind her. Quite the arrogant bitch, isn't she? Shikaka asked rhetorically. You don't get to talk, you're the one who got us into this mess, Gyuki reminded him. I did not. Who's the one who jinxed us? Komi demanded. That was about the gunship. Do you see a gunship anywhere in sight? Musashi looked at the Asari. You're not her, he said, teeth gritted from the pain. You're not the Huntress. She barely glanced at the wounded human. Yes, I am, she said, sounding disinterested in him. He glared at her, but that was all he could do. I'd asked you what you want, but that's a stupid question, isn't it? Naruto asked her. Yes, it is, she replied, looking down her nose at him. The tribe wants their little lab rat back and I always deliver. Her words angered him. I'm no one's lab rat, he growled at her. But you are. You see, the tribe is on the verge of finally figuring out how to make chakra for the galaxy, and they have you to thank for it. But they still need you to finish the work, so back to the lab you go. The way she spoke, she made it sound like it was already going to happen. It didn't raise his opinion of her. What if I say no? She laughed. You don't seem to understand, so I'll lay it out for you. If you or any of your team makes a move, mine will shoot to kill and they don't miss. You can't use your chakra, so there's no possible way for you to trick your way out of this situation. You could fight back, but the scientists don't exactly need you whole, so after killing your team, I'll just hack off a limb or two to make sure you don't go anywhere. You might as well just give up and surrender yourself to me so you can go back to being poked and prodded for the betterment of the galaxy. The betterment of the galaxy, he repeated. Is that what they're telling you? Humans are being selfish when it comes to chakra, holding it all to yourself, she told him. What you have should be shared with the entire galaxy. But you're selfish and hold it all for yourself. If you won't give it, we will have to force to take it. As she spoke, she looked down her nose at him. Clearly, she thought he was beneath her. Sounds like she's quoting people who've said the same thing but better, Saiken commented. Forget quoting. I'm willing to bet that she's paraphrasing, Sun declared. You don't have any money, neither do you. So you think that because it's for the betterment of the galaxy, I should go with you to be experimented on? Naruto asked her. She shrugged, still looking down her nose. Whether you come willing with me or not doesn't matter. You're coming with me. He indulged her a little bit since he could see that she was enjoying herself. You willing think that I'm going to go with you? I'm going to die if they get their hands on me again. Not my problem. They want you. They get you. I never failed to deliver. Well, this time you will. She laughed arrogantly. It was teeth-grating. You just don't get it, do you? I have you beat. You make a single twitch, the people behind you die. I'll have my guys kill them slow and horribly, just to break your spirit. And it'll all be on you. Gaki, could you just get a move on, already? Kurama asked him. Your friend is on the ground and is probably dying. I'm aware, he replied. You're right, he told the Huntress. Humans are selfish. I'm selfish. I'm selfish in that I don't want to die. I'm selfish in that I want to be free. Like I said, not my problem, she told him. Actually, it is. And also, you don't have me beat. He lifted his head slightly and spoke out loud, kill them, keep her alive. His words made no sense to her, not until she started hearing bodies hitting the floor. She turned around and saw her team dropping like flies while more armored and hooded people stood behind their fallen bodies, looking exactly her target. What? How? He can't have his chakra. She thought in shock. You should have listened to what they had to say about me, she heard the original say. I'm not to be underestimated. She turned back to look at the original, only to see a kunai coming towards her. He didn't hesitate as he plunged the kunai into her eye with one hand and muffled her screaming with the other. Never threaten my comrades. Not unless you can back it up, he told her as he let gravity take hold of her. She collapsed to the ground in a heap, groaning and twitching as she held her face. He stared at her for a long moment before turning to Gurus once more, picking up his guns and sheathing them as he moved. Gurus, talk to me, he said, reaching down for the Turian and rolling him over. The right side of his face was burnt to a black mess. Naruto, there's blood on the ground, Koko said quietly. There's a lot of it. He could see the blood from underneath the ground. He's not dead, Naruto. He's not dead. And as if to prove his words true, Gurus opened his eyes and breathed out weakly. Gurus, he said with relief. He looked up at Miranda. Get the Normandy on the line. Tell them to prep the med bay. Aye, Commander, she said, already going for her calm. Jacob, grab his other side. He was already picking up Gurus's left arm and slugging it over his shoulder. While Jacob did the same with the right, and getting a pained groan from the Turian, the clones standing behind the dead tribesmen dispelled themselves. What the hell was that? Musashi asked, finally finding his voice. What did you do? He knew that was the Kagebun Shinjutsu at work, but he didn't see them appear. When did the shinobi make it happen? Had a batch of clones behind us disguised as freelancers follow us down and hang back out of sight so we could get some help? Come on, we need to get moving. He and Jacob carried Gurus down the steps. The two Batarians that had been there before were already dead on the ground, bullet holes in their heads. The shuttle was opened, allowing them all to get in. As Eric took the controls and started it up, Miranda told him where to go. They all felt the shuttle lift off the ground, turn in the air, and fly out the way it came. They all relaxed slightly, thinking that they were safe, when they started getting gunfire. What the? Swore Zaid from his seat. It is Tarek, Eric announced. He is after us in the gunship. Hang on. I will try to lose him. Don't do that, Kojiro told him, taking his weapon in one hand and making a hand seal with the other. In fact, open the glass. Why would I do that? So I can take care of the problem. Trust me, I can do it. Eric, do it, Musashi told the blonde giant. To Kojiro, he said, don't miss. When have I ever? The glass top opened and he stood up, angling himself off to the side. He drew his sword, swung it once, and then sat back down, sheathing it. Okay, you can close it now. They heard the explosion right behind them, muted as it was due to the glass closing overhead. If they could have looked back and seen it just before the explosion, they would have seen the gunship, and the Batarian flying it, cut vertically in half. Well, that was anticlimactic, Shikako commented as the shuttle flew to the docks. Codex entry, Politics Systems Alliance, and the Batarian Hegemony. While at first, relations between the Systems Alliance and the Batarian Hegemony were non-existent, save for official Citadel business. But as the Alliance began to colonize the Skyllian Verge and the Council refused to intervene, the Hegemony cut all ties and retreated to their own space. As the Alliance continued to colonize, their colonies were struck repeatedly by pirates and slavers. While many in the Alliance suspected that these attacks were being funded by another body of government, specifically the Hegemony due to the number of Batarians sighted, all that could be proven was they belonged to various criminal organizations. In response, they began the redistribution of the Marines to the outermost colonies. But as that transition was occurring, the slavers struck again, on the Alliance colony on Mindwar. Later reports would say that the colonists that had been killed first were the lucky ones. Those that had been taken alive were treated cruelly by the slavers. When the Alliance dispatched 2 Marine battalions to retake Mindwar, they were able to breach the slavers' defenses and send them fleeing from the planet. But not before they took the remaining colonists with them. The atrocity of such an attack steeled the Alliance and redistributed the Marines en masse. They also deployed the top forces of the Shinobi, CNBU, to the Terminus system to find, hunt down, and kill any pirate or slaver they found. These dual tactics, now known as the Iron Left and the Silent Right, kept things in a stalemate between the Alliance and the various criminal organizations attacking them. One of the earliest victories in this silent war was the recovery of the Mindwar colonists, the Lorik recovery. When discovered, an ANBU agent called in support from the Alliance, who promptly sent and said support in the form of the Marines. All colonists had been rescued in the attempt, and the slavers themselves had been captured. In a rare kind of mercy and cruelness, the Marines released the slavers and sent them back to the Hegemony. But they were sent back without their tongues or their hands. The Alliance fully supported this action, declaring that the slavers would never be able to brag about what they did, or do them to any human again. It is believed that the recovery of the colonists is what prompted the next major attack against the Alliance, the Skyllian Blitz. The attack on the colony of Elysium was by a massive force of the pirates and slavers that had been raiding them. It had been sudden and from out of nowhere. It might have succeeded in working if not for 3 factors. The first was that the 5 Kages of the elemental countries had been there, and with them, a full contingent of shinobi guards for each Kage. The second was that when a breach in the defenses had been made in the northern section of the colony, it was quickly sealed before any could get through by one man, see Elysium Saint, thus stalling the time on the ground. The third was that Elysium was a city mostly comprised of people from the elemental countries on Earth. By the time the battle had ended, it was a disaster for the invading forces and they fled when reinforcements showed. For the next 2 years, only the raids continued and were either stopped at the attempt or when they tried to get away. And then just as suddenly as Elysium had, an alliance fleet had appeared over the moon of Torfan, a known location of criminals, most of which were Batarians, and laid siege to it, ending it in complete annihilation of the strongholds on the moon, see Torfin's demon. In the aftermath, the Alliance revealed that the Silent Right had not just been hunting down Slaver. They had also been collecting information, which revealed that the Batarian hegemony had funded every raid and capture since the very beginning, funneling their money through the criminal organizations, effectively making them the leaders of it all. While the hegemony protested, the evidence was clear to be seen. That same Alliance fleet began making its way towards Batarian space. Many suspected that the Alliance would declare war on the hegemony, but no declaration was made by them. The hegemony declared war on the Alliance and ordered the incoming fleet to be destroyed. But no hegemony fleet ever succeeded, as another Alliance fleet would always appear to strike them and force them to flee. When the first Alliance fleet reached the mass relay that led to the Batarian home system, they did not go through it. Instead, they sent a single ship through. When the ship arrived in the system, it broadcasted a video to the hegemony. Later, it was revealed that as the fleet made their way to the mass relay, NBU agents had snuck onto Karshan and kidnapped the leaders of the hegemony. The video was of them on their knees with guns pointed at them. Once the video had been seen, the Alliance ordered the hegemony to stand down and cease hostile activities against them. Faced with the possible loss of their leaders and the silent threat that the same could happen to the next generation, they quickly obeyed. Once peace had been established, as there were no negotiations, the leaders were released back to the hegemony. But they were sent back absent 2 eyes and a note on each one of them. The notes had the same message on them all: you will not do this again. Since then, the hegemony has not made a move, official or not, against the Alliance. However, they do not govern the actions of independence. To the rest of the galaxy, it was an example of chakra being used in warfare through both original and technical usage.